Chapter 26:14. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The suction force in front of the passage was too strong. Lu Ming was not prepared at all and was sucked in at once. Swish. Lu Ming was like a small boat in a huge wave, drifting with the current and being thrown out. Soon the passage came to an end. However, there was an even larger passage at the end of the passage. The passage that Lu Ming was in was just a branch. The two passages converged together. Lu Ming was directly thrown into this larger passageway. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The larger passage was at least a few thousand meters in diameter and was filled with endless gales that blew in one direction. It was because of the gales that it produced such a terrifying suction force. The endless gales blew on Lu Ming's body like sharp blades, cutting Lu Ming's body and causing waves of stinging pain. Lu Ming hurriedly circulated his sovereign power and covered his body to resist the attack of the gales. Whoosh whoosh. The gales whistled as Lu Ming was carried forward by the gales. In the blink of an eye, he had flown over 100 li. No, I can't be carried like this forever. Lu Ming's mind raced as he mustered all his strength and rushed to the side of the passage. The side of the passage was full of bumpy rocks. When Lu Ming approached the side of the passage, Lu Ming grabbed a protruding rock and finally stabilized his body. There's actually a hurricane passage in the depths of this cave. Where does it lead? Lu Ming pondered. Could it be that the true core of the cave was in the depths of the passage and that he had to pass through the hurricane passage to reach the core of the cave? This was very likely. Many experts would set up formations or traps around their cave abodes to prevent others from entering. This hurricane passage was very likely set up by the cave abode's owner. Go along the side of the passage and take a look. Lu Ming made up his mind. Since he had come here, he did not want to give up. Immediately, Lu Ming followed the side of the passage and climbed the protruding rocks, slowly heading deeper into the passage. However, Lu Ming realized that the closer he got to the depths of the passage, the stronger the gales became. Lu Ming was very draining to resist the hurricane's power. Every once in a while, Lu Ming had to stop to rest and recover his strength. Just like that, Lu Ming walked for 3 days but still did not reach the end of the passage. This passage seemed to be endless with no end. Brr. At this moment, Lu Ming heard a beast roar. Beast roar? What's going on? Could there be desolate beasts or divine beasts here? Lu Ming revealed a puzzled look, but in the next moment his eyes widened. This was because he saw a huge desolate beast soaring in the hurricane and flying toward Lu Ming. This was a strange desolate beast. Its body was like a goshawk and it was covered in green feathers. However, its head was that of a lion. It was Lu Ming's first time seeing such a desolate beast with a lion's head and a bird's body. This desolate beast was completely unafraid of the gales. With a flap of its wings, it flew against the wind. Its gaze was like lightning as it swept towards Lu Ming. Swish, swish. It flapped its wings a few times and flew towards Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. Its sharp claws swiped at Lu Ming. The wind howled and it was terrifyingly sharp. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the rock with one hand and the meteor spear with the other. He stabbed out. Dang. The meteor spear stabbed at the other party's sharp claws, producing the sound of metal clashing. The lion-headed harpy was sent flying, but Lu Ming's spear also trembled violently, causing Lu Ming's arm to turn numb. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming's heart turned cold. He did not dare to be careless. Brr. The lion-headed harpy retreated and spread its wings to stabilize its body. Its eyes turned even colder. With a flap of its wings, it charged towards Lu Ming like a gust of wind. Its wings were like blades as they slashed towards Lu Ming. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Ming held his spear with one hand and stabbed out rays of spear light as he engaged in a fierce battle with the lion-headed harpy. In a blink of an eye, both sides had exchanged dozens of blows. Finally, Lu Ming stabbed the lion-headed harpy's lower abdomen. The lion-headed harpy roared angrily as it retreated frantically. Feathers fell from the sky as it was swept away by the gales and disappeared at the end of the tunnel. Brr, brr. The lion-headed harpy was infuriated. It constantly roared and flapped its wings rapidly. Swish, swish. Wind blades formed and were sharper than ordinary divine weapons as they shot towards Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming did not hesitate and activated the battle character art to double his combat strength. Now, Lu Ming could activate the battle character art's double combat strength after activating it twice. After activating the double combat strength, his strength increased greatly. With a shake of his spear, hundreds of rays of spear light were shot out, destroying the wind blades one by one. At the same time, the spear swept towards the lion-headed harpy along with the wind. Lu Ming's attack was already astonishingly fast. With the wind it became even faster. The lion-headed harpy wanted to dodge, but it was too late. It was directly hit by the spear. Bang! The lion-headed eagle body beast exploded. What surprised Lu Ming was that after the lion-headed harpy exploded, there was not a drop of blood. It directly turned into energy and disappeared. Fake? It's not a real creature? Lu Ming was also stunned. Could it be that it was condensed by the array? However, this lion-headed harpy was too real. It was no different from a real one. Lu Ming could not distinguish it just now. After killing this lion-headed eagle beast, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the side. However, this time he did not go far before he heard a few roars. Then Lu Ming saw the lion-headed harpies again. Moreover, this time there was not one but three. The three lion-headed harpies pounced on Lu Ming as soon as they saw Lu Ming. Then let's fight. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. He waved his spear and fought with the three lion-headed harpies. This time they exchanged more than 100 moves. In this hurricane passage, Lu Ming had to resist the wind and it was difficult for him to exert his full strength. However, the lion-headed harpies were like fish in water. They could exert their strength to the extreme. Therefore, even if the lion-headed harpies' level was not high, Lu Ming still spent a lot of effort to kill them. In this kind of environment, it's not bad to use it to train myself. Lu Ming smiled slightly. In this kind of adversity, Lu Ming had to go all out against the lion-headed harpies. He had to use his god's power and the battle formula to the extreme. After that exchange, Lu Ming felt that he had gained some understanding of the god's power and the battle formula. Although it was not much, it was still much faster than boring and bitter cultivation. Afterwards, Lu Ming found a large protruding rock and used it to stabilize his body. He circulated his energy to recover. Every time he used the battle formula, he needed to rest and recover. He could not use it continuously. Several hours later, Lu Ming had fully recovered and continued deeper into the passage. However, he did not go very far before several lion-headed harpies appeared and began to fight with Lu Ming. After exchanging more than 100 moves, Lu Ming finally managed to kill the lion-headed harpies. He had gained more understanding of the god's path and the battle formula. Baidu search Dong 81 Chinese Networko. No advertising message. Chapter 26:15. Just like that, Lu Ming continued to advance and kill along the way. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. There was still no end to the passage after 3 months. There were two main reasons for this. Firstly, this passage was too long. The second reason was that Lu Ming was advancing very slowly. This was because he would encounter the lion-headed eagle beasts every once in a while. Naturally, he would be slowed down. There was even one time when Lu Ming encountered more than 10 lion-head eagle beasts appearing at the same time. Lu Ming was no match for them and could only retreat against the wind. Luckily, these lion-head eagle beasts seemed to have their own territories. They stopped pursuing Lu Ming when he retreated to a certain area. Lu Ming continued to fight with the lion-head eagle beasts. Meanwhile, the Yuan Luo Hall master and the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall had finally broken the formation of the outermost door after 3 months. Crack. The door opened and the Yuan Luo Hall master and the others rushed in excitedly. They were imagining that there was a large amount of treasure waiting for them. However, it was like a basin of cold water had been poured over them. Nothing at all. They searched every nook and cranny, but it was empty. There was nothing there. The Yuan Luo Hall master's face darkened. They had also searched the passage that Lu Ming had entered previously, but that gap had been blocked by Qiu. They had only scanned it casually and did not discover it. Soon they arrived at the inner part and were blocked by the second door. Hallmaster, there is another door here. Perhaps we are only at the outer part of the cave, so there are no treasures here. Perhaps we can find a fortuitous encounter through this door. Great Elder Mo Kan of the Yuan Luo Hall said. That's right, the treasures must be hidden inside. We will definitely find the treasures once we break this door. The others of the Yuan Luo Hall spoke one after another. The Yuan Luo Hall master's expression turned slightly better as he said, All right, let's work together and break this door. I will not mistreat you all when we find the treasures. Thank you, Hall Master. The others expressed their gratitude and began to attack the door together. However, their expressions turned ugly as soon as they attacked. This was because the strength of the array formation on this door was much stronger than the first door. The first door had taken them several months to break open. This door would probably take even longer. But now that things had come to this, they had no choice but to grit their teeth and attack. In the air above the righteous sky army, the ancestor of techniques and Fu Heng were still playing chess. What they were playing was not a real game of chess. It was a game of cultivation base and intelligence. Every move was a contest between the two of them and required a very long time. They were still playing chess with all their might. In the Hurricane Passage, Lu Ming was still moving forward slowly, fighting against the Lionhead Eagle Body Beast. In this way, Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Passage. 8 months had passed. After 8 months of continuous fighting, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation already reached the limits of a 5-star heavenly emperor and could already break through. My cultivation has indeed improved very quickly by constantly killing and tempering myself here. Lu Ming sighed with emotion. If he cultivated step by step outside, even in a good environment like the Chaos Universe, Lu Ming would need at least 5 years to break through. This was still under the premise that he had Jianghu's portrait to study from time to time. But here in less than a year Lu Ming felt that he could break through. I have to find a better place to break through. Along the way I also saw some pits, but I can break through in those pits. Lu Ming pondered. The walls here were bumpy and uneven, and there would often be some depressions. They were like shallow caves and were very good hiding places. Lu Ming continued forward. After a few more battles, Lu Ming finally found a pit. Entering the pit, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and circulated his cultivation to adjust his breathing. A few hours later Lu Ming recovered to his peak state. Then he took out a pile of divine crystals and began to break through. This time the breakthrough came naturally. There was no difficulty at all. Several days later, Lu Ming successfully stepped into the 6-star Heavenly Emperor realm. The price was that he consumed a total of more than 10,000 divine crystals. Stepping into the 6-star Heavenly Emperor realm, Lu Ming's strength became a little stronger again. However, the further one went in the Void God realm, the greater the gap between each level. When he broke through in the Heavenly Emperor realm, it became more and more difficult to fight across levels. If he did not use the battle character tactic, Lu Ming could at most contend with a level 4 Void God realm powerhouse by relying on his Tao of Sovereign. Moreover, it was barely enough. After successfully breaking through, Lu Ming continued forward, fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast to temper himself. In a flash, 1 year and 3 months had already passed since Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Passageway. And at this time Yuan Luo Hall Master and the rest were still blocked by the second door and did not break the array. Hall Master not good. At this time an expert from Yuan Luo Hall came in to report. What is it? Yuan Luo Hall Master asked with a gloomy face. He was in a bad mood. He had been here for more than a year, but until now he had not obtained anything. If this went on, it would be troublesome when Fu Heng could not hold the ancestor of technique back. Hall Master, the walkabout sect leader has brought people here. The expert from Yuan Luo Hall reported. That old man Situ, Yuan Luo Hall Master gritted his teeth. Brother Kong, you are too unkind. There is an expert's cave here and you want to take it for yourself without informing me. At this time a cold voice sounded and a group of people rushed in. The leader was a skinny middle-aged man. This person was the walkabout sect leader, Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, you have misunderstood. There is a large array here. I originally wanted to break the array and inform you. Yuan Luo Hall Master said with a fake smile. Break the array and inform me? Situ Haonan sneered. Brother Kong, no matter how you put it, we're still allies. We joined hands to deal with the righteous army, and my walkabout sect helped you hold back quite a few of their experts. That's why you had the chance to occupy this immortal cave. So my walkabout sect also wants a share of this immortal cave. Brother Kong, do you have any objections? How much do you want? Yuan Luo Hall Master said. The treasures inside we will each take half. Situ Haonan said. Yuan Luo Hall Master's face darkened and said, Brother Situ, your appetite is too big. Too big? Situ Haonan sneered and said, if I turn and leave now and attract Fa Ming, I'm afraid you won't even get half. You? Yuan Luo Hall Master's face turned ugly. Everything was for benefits. Yuan Luo Hall and the walkabout sect had only joined hands for benefits. Now that an expert's cave was in front of them, their relationship was no longer as friendly. He had no doubt that Situ Haonan would do anything if he refused. Chapter 26:16. The Yuan Luo Hall Master squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Situ must be joking. Alright, half it is. However, the great formation here is very sturdy and difficult to break. Next, the experts of the walkabout sect will have to attack together. Of course. Situ Haonan smiled. Immediately, the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall and the walkabout sect joined forces to attack the great formation. With the two of them working together, their speed increased greatly. It only took a month to break the Great Formation and open the door. Let's go. The experts from both sides rushed into the door, ready to plunder the treasures. But after entering they were dumbfounded. It was clean and smooth and there was nothing inside. They came to the place where Lu Ming took the pills. There were a few shelves here but there was still nothing on the shelves. Completely empty? The Yuan Luo Hall Master's face was gloomy. His chest heaved up and down and he almost vomited blood. Could it be that this cave dwelling was empty, and the master of the cave dwelling did not leave anything behind? It should not be. This was the cave dwelling of a heavenly god. Logically speaking, even if such a figure left, he would take away some valuable treasures, but he would still leave behind some unimportant items. They were not important to heavenly gods, but to them they might be priceless treasures. But how could there be nothing? Search carefully. The Yuan Luo Hall Master roared. They searched inside and out, but they couldn't find a single strand of hair. Finally, they came to the depths of this area. There was a passage here blocked by an extremely powerful formation. There's more inside. Perhaps the depths of the cave dwelling are inside? Perhaps the treasures are inside? The Yuan Luo Hall Master and the others could not help but have such thoughts to comfort themselves. Then they had no choice but to continue working hard and attack the Great Formation. However, the Great Formation here was even more astonishing. It was much stronger than the previous Great Formation. Even if the experts of the Walkabout sect joined forces, it would take a long time to break it open. Time passed quickly. It had already been 2 years since Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Passage. After continuous battles, Lu Ming improved very quickly. Unknowingly, his cultivation had reached the peak of a 6-star heavenly emperor. Lu Ming found another pit and began to break through to the next realm. In the end, he successfully broke through the realm, breaking through to 7-star heavenly emperor. Peak 7-star heavenly emperor Lu Ming finally reached. The next step was to combine the 10,000 yuan into one and condense the divine flame. After condensing the divine flame, he would be able to break through to the martial god realm and enter the second step of cultivation. To the current Lu Ming, 10,000 elements returning to one and condensing divine fire was not particularly difficult. When Lu Ming arrived in the Your-Wilds universe, his minor world had already fused with the Your-Wilds universe, transforming it into pure world energy and sovereign power. Moreover, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, the proportion of sovereign power in his body grew larger and larger. Currently, Lu Ming's sovereign power had reached 99%, and only 1% of his world energy remained. As long as he converted all the energy in his body into sovereign power, Lu Ming could start trying to combine all the origin powers and form the divine flame. This trip to the Immortals' Cave helped Lu Ming save a lot of time. Continue. After the breakthrough, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the passage. Huff huff huff. Rumble rumble rumble. This time Lu Ming continued to move forward. Not only did he hear the terrifying whistling of the wind, but he also heard deafening collisions. Lu Ming continued to move forward and discovered that he had finally reached the end of the passage. At the end of the passage there were a few passages that merged and converged. Each passage was filled with strong winds. When the winds from a few passages collided with each other, a shocking explosion could be heard. On top of that, the winds from a few passages had gathered in a larger passage, causing the wind in the passage to be shockingly strong. Lu Ming had a feeling that if he entered the passage, he would not be able to hold on for long before his body was torn apart by the wind. Seems like I have to stop here. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter the depths of the Immortals' Cave. Lu Ming pondered. There's a cave here? Suddenly, Lu Ming discovered a pitch-black cave on the side of the wall. Lu Ming climbed along the wall and looked into the cave. He discovered that the cave was pitch-black and bottomless. Lu Ming had not discovered a similar cave along the way. Where did this cave lead to? Lu Ming was extremely curious. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming decided to take a look. Lu Ming circulated his sovereign power and his eyes glowed. He could see the pitch-black cave with a single glance. Lu Ming entered the cave. There was no wind in the cave. Lu Ming carefully moved forward along the cave. After several thousand meters he reached the end of the cave. Then Lu Ming discovered that he had arrived on a large platform. The platform was extremely wide. On one side of the platform the whistling of the wind could be heard. Lu Ming walked over to take a look. In the direction of the platform there was a hurricane passage. The wind there was extremely terrifying. It was many times stronger than what Lu Ming had encountered before. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He did not dare to approach the hurricane passage. He stayed away from the hurricane passage and looked at the other parts of the platform. On the other side of the platform there was a stone door. Lu Ming pushed the door open and entered. He discovered that it was a passage. There were rooms on both sides of the passage. Oh, could these be bedrooms? Lu Ming discovered that there were stone tables and stone beds in these rooms. However, they were very ordinary and did not contain any treasures. The next few rooms had ordinary stone tables and beds. There was nothing valuable about them. When Lu Ming came to the last room, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were some shelves in this room. On top of them were various weapons. Lu Ming's heart began to beat rapidly. He picked up a battle sword and inserted his sovereign power. Buzz! The battle sword began to glow. A powerful aura spread out. This is a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming's breathing quickened. His eyes were burning. This was definitely a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. One must know that the meteor spear that Lu Ming bought was only a rank 6 lower grade divine artifact. Even so, it was worth 7,000 divine crystals. A rank 9 lower grade divine artifact's price would be many times higher. It would be normal to sell it for 70,000 to 80,000 divine crystals or even 100,000 divine crystals. There are words below. Lu Ming discovered that there was a small plaque hanging on the hilt of this sword. There were words written on it. Ancient Moon Sword, rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. On the plaque there was a line of words. It really is a rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming laughed and quickly put it away. He then looked at the other weapons. Clear Wind Hook, rank 9 lower grade divine artifact. Lihi Saber, rank 8 lower grade divine artifact. Lu Ming looked at 6 or 7 weapons. They were all rank 7 lower grade divine artifacts and above. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, Lu Ming muttered to himself. This time he really struck it rich. Lu Ming did not expect that after passing through the Hurricane Passage, he would gain so much. 6 War Staff, rank 1 middle grade divine artifact. When Lu Ming picked up a long rod and took a look, his eyes lit up immediately. Chapter 26:17. There were even medial grade divine artifacts here. A middle grade divine artifact was equivalent to a true god expert. Only a true god expert could unleash the full power of a middle grade divine artifact. Lu Ming's eyes burned even brighter. He put away the staff and sped up his search. Medial grade divine artifacts, medial grade divine artifacts, medial grade divine artifacts. A moment later, Lu Ming put away all the weapons here. There were a total of 33 divine artifacts. All of them were low-grade divine artifacts or above. Any one of them was better than the meteor spear he was currently using. Among them there were 20 low-grade divine artifacts. There were a total of 13 medial-grade divine artifacts. There were even 2 divine artifacts, the highest of which were mid-grade divine artifacts. One was a battle sword and the other was a battle saber. How many divine crystals could a mid-grade divine artifact be sold for? Lu Ming couldn't estimate it all. Even factions like the Righteous Army, Yuan Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect couldn't take out divine artifacts of this level. They were too precious. Lu Ming had no idea how many divine crystals these 33 divine artifacts were worth. In short, he knew that he had struck it rich. He wouldn't have to worry about resources for a period of time. His disciples, family, friends, and members of the Dragon Alliance wouldn't have to worry about resources either. I can exchange for the meteor spear now. Lu Ming was all smiles. There were several spears among the 33 divine artifacts. The highest grade was a mid-grade divine artifact of 4th grade. There was also a low-grade divine artifact of 8th grade and 9th grade. Lu Ming picked up a low-grade divine artifact and swung it a few times. He felt that it was quite good. After taking all the divine artifacts, Lu Ming wandered around a bit. After confirming that there were no more treasures here, Lu Ming left. Forward. With my cultivation I can't go in. I can go back now. Lu Ming was satisfied. Then he went through the cave and returned to the Hurricane Passage. Then he followed the original path and climbed up the rocks to return. Going back was against the wind, so it was extremely difficult. However, Lu Ming had already killed all of the lion-headed eagle beasts in this Hurricane Passage. When he returned, there were no lion-headed eagle beasts blocking his way. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation had increased by another level, so his speed was still very fast. Even though they were traveling against the wind, their speed was still much faster than when they had arrived. After Lu Ming had crawled back for some time, the people from the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect finally opened the array formation of the passageway. They hurried through the passageway. At the end of this passage was the place where Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine artifacts. After that, the hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall, Situ Haonen, and the others discovered that this place was still empty. Other than some stone stools and tables, there was nothing else. What happened? Yuan Luo Hall master roared. He could no longer control his temper. After a lot of hard work, he found that there was nothing here. If he knew that Lu Ming had already reached this place, he would probably vomit blood from anger. Everyone's expression was extremely ugly. Then, when they discovered the Hurricane Passage, their expressions became even uglier. The Hurricane Passage here was already the convergence of several passages. Its power was astonishing. Even the hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall was wary of it. This should be a blockade set up by the cave master. Could it be that the true inner cave is in the depths of these hurricane passages? They guessed. However, for a moment they were hesitant. Usually, such a place would be accompanied by danger. Let's observe for a few days before making a decision, Yuan Luo Hall master said. In the sky above the headquarters of the Jingtian army, the ancestor of techniques and Fu Heng had been playing chess for more than 2 years. And now it was already the final moment. Break. The ancestor of techniques waved his hand and a giant chess piece was formed and placed on the chessboard. Fu Heng's expression changed. With a wave of his hand, a powerful force surged towards the ancestor of techniques, preventing him from placing the chess piece. Boom. Boom. The two of them continued to exchange blows. In the past 2 years, the two of them had exchanged blows countless times. After a dozen moves, boom. In the end, the ancestor of techniques' chess piece still landed on the chessboard. You've lost. The ancestor of techniques looked at Fu Heng. Brother Fa is indeed amazing. This old man is impressed. The game is over and this old man has fulfilled his promise. Brother Fa, please don't blame me. Let's go. With a wave of his sleeve, Fu Heng soared into the sky and a starship appeared. He boarded the starship and left the Jingtian planet. Northern Shang planet. As soon as Fu Heng left, the ancestor of techniques immediately went to the Northern Shang planet. After arriving at the Seven Stars Island, he immediately rushed to the Qin Gold Mine and met up with the Jingtian army 100,000 miles away from the Qin Gold Island. The army lord is here. Army lord. The Jingtian army immediately bowed to the ancestor of techniques. What's the situation in the Yuan Luo Hall these past 2 years? The ancestor of techniques asked. Army lord, the Yuan Luo Hall master and the Walkabout sect master have been in the cave abodes of the experts for the past 2 years. Someone reported. That old fox Situ Haonan is also here. A sharp light flashed through the ancestor of techniques' eyes as he ordered, wait for me here. I'll go check it out myself. Then the ancestor of techniques turned into a ray of light and shot towards Chen Jingquang. It's the Jingtian army's army lord Fa Ming, informed the hall masters. As soon as the ancestor of techniques arrived, the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect immediately noticed him. Under the lead of a few true God realm experts, they became cautious and sent a message to the Yuan Luo Hall master. The Yuan Luo Hall master and Situ Haonan received the message at the same time. Fa Ming dares to come alone? Fine, we'll make him stay today. A cold light flashed through the Yuan Luo Hall master's eyes. After spending a few years and not getting anything, he was filled with anger. Fine. After we get rid of Fa Ming, we'll split the Jingtian army's territory. Situ Haonan said coldly. Old Mo, hide in the dark. Fa Ming might think that you're still guarding the headquarters. Later, brother Situ and I will fight with Fa Ming. Then you sneak attack Fa Ming. The Yuan Luo Hall master ordered. The Yuan Luo Hall master was wary of the ancestor of techniques. He and Mo Kan were both at the 4th level True God realm, while the ancestor of techniques was only at the 3rd level True God realm. However, the ancestor of techniques was extremely strong. He could fight against the two of them alone. Even with Situ Haonan, they weren't confident that they could make the ancestor of techniques stay in a direct battle. If the ancestor of techniques wanted to leave, they couldn't stop him. Only a sneak attack could make the ancestor of techniques stay. Don't worry. The Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect is also hiding near Qin Jingquang's vein. He can also sneak attack when the time comes. Today we must make Fa Ming stay. Situ Haonan said coldly. The Yuan Luo Hall master's heart trembled as he secretly called Situ Haonan an old fox. Situ Haonan had asked the Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect to hide in the dark. It was most likely to guard against the Yuan Luo Hall. Fine. Today we'll make sure that Fa Ming doesn't return. The Yuan Luo Hall master said coldly. The group of people headed outside. Chapter 26:18. Outside the cave, the ancestor of technique stood in the air, his body emitting a vast divine aura. Set up the formation. The experts of Yuan Luo and the free and unfettered sect guarding the cave all had solemn expressions as they retreated and set up a great formation. The ancestor of technique was too famous. A person who had walked out of a lesser thousand world under the jurisdiction of Yuan Luo Palace had broken free from Yuan Luo's shackles and risen to power, establishing the righteous army to fight against Yuan Luo Palace. Most importantly, the ancestor of technique's strength was incomparably powerful. He had fought against 2 experts of Yuan Luo Palace alone and established a great reputation for himself. Although there was a level 3 true god from Yuan Luo Palace present who had the same cultivation as the ancestor of technique, his face was pale and his heart trembled when facing the ancestor of technique. He had once seen the ancestor of technique kill a level 3 true god expert with one move. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage when facing the ancestor of technique. Kangji, get out here. The ancestor of technique shouted coldly, his voice rumbling and causing many people with weaker cultivation to retreat. Fa Ming, do you only know how to be arrogant in front of my subordinates? The voice of Yuan Luo Palace Master, Kangji, came from within the cave, following which more than 10 silhouettes rushed out of the cavern. It was Kangji, Situ Haonan and the others. Of course, the supreme elder of Yuan Luo Palace, Missouri Kan, didn't appear. Kangji's gaze swept across and found that only Fa Ming was present. The coldness in his eyes intensified. Kangji Qinjindao originally belonged to the righteous army. Now you can scram. The ancestor of technique said. Haha, what a joke, what a joke. Kangji laughed and looked mockingly at the ancestor of technique. Fa Ming, you're really naive. You've been in the Chaotic Star River for so many years, haven't you understood one thing? In the Chaotic Star River, whoever is stronger will be able to occupy more territory. From today onwards, this island, no, the entire northern Shang planet will belong to Yuan Luo Palace and the free and unfettered sect. Do you understand? If that's the case, then let's talk with strength. The ancestor of technique was very direct. He stepped forward and a vast divine power erupted like a tide. Boom. The ancestor of techniques pressed down with his palm. Divine power boiled as a gigantic palm print slammed down on Kangji. Kangji didn't dare to be careless. His LV4 True God Realm divine power exploded. A saber appeared in his hand. A saber light shot up into the sky and slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Boom. Energy surged into the sky as divine powers collided, creating shockwaves that spread out in all directions. Not good, block it. The True God Realm experts of the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect set up defenses in front of them to block the shockwaves, but they were still pushed back by the shockwaves. Those with weaker cultivations directly coughed up blood, their faces pale. If there were true divinity powerhouses defending them, those with weaker cultivations would most likely be killed by the shockwaves. There was a huge gap between empty God Realm and True God Realm. At the same time, the saber light and palm print dissipated, and a figure retreated continuously. The person who retreated was Kangji. His cultivation was clearly at the 4th level True God Realm, 1 level higher than the ancestor of techniques. But in a head-on battle he was at a disadvantage. Kangji, your battle strength is not enough. The ancestor of technique spoke coldly. He manipulated his divine power and slammed down again. Scorching Sun Saber Technique. Kangji shouted. His 4th level middle divine artifact saber radiated a dazzling saber light that was as dazzling as the sun. Then, he slashed out with his saber and the blazing saber light slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Kangji had used a divine skill. Fei Ming, take this. The sect leader of the Walkabout sect, Situ Haonan, also attacked. His body moved like a flickering shadow as he charged at the ancestor of technique. At the same time, a soft sword appeared in his hand. The sword light was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed at the ancestor of technique's vitals. At the same time, this was also a terrifying divine skill. Kangji and Situ Haonan had both used their divine skills. The ancestor of technique's face finally turned serious. A 2-meter-long battle sword appeared in his hand. Swoosh. The ancestor of technique slashed out with his sword and the sword light exploded. Boom. Boom. There were 2 loud explosions as the ancestor of technique blocked Kangji and Situ Haonan's attacks. Fa Ming, since you dared to come here alone today, you shall stay here forever. Kangji continued to channel his divine power and unleashed his divine skill to the maximum. Its power was extremely terrifying as he attacked head-on. At the same time, Situ Haonan's body flickered as he moved around at an extremely fast speed. He took the opportunity to attack the ancestor of technique's vitals. The two of them worked together and their power increased exponentially. The ancestor of technique focused his attention and fought 1 against 2. It was difficult to tell who would win. The three of them fought on the surface of the sea, stirring up huge waves. Then they fought in the air. In the blink of an eye, the three of them had exchanged more than 100 blows and it was difficult to tell who would win. Then the three of them fought on the surface of the sea. Whoosh! Suddenly, the surface of the sea rolled and a terrifying light of destruction burst out from the surface of the sea and attacked the ancestor of technique. Mo Kan. The ancestor of technique shouted angrily. Ha fa Ming die. Kang Ji laughed loudly and launched a violent attack. Situ Haonan also attacked with all his might and cooperated with Mo Kan's sneak attack. Just as the ancestor of technique was about to be hit, the sword light on his body suddenly exploded. Rays of sword light burst out and filled the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan's attacks were all blocked by the sword light that filled the sky. Swoosh, swoosh. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan quickly retreated. They stood in the air and looked at the ancestor of technique in shock. Fa Ming, you've cultivated your divine skill to the 3rd level? Kang Ji roared in shock. A divine skill was an offensive skill of the martial god realm. It could unleash the power of one's divine force to the extreme and burst out with terrifying power. It was the same as a martial skill. According to the difference in power and degree of mystery, divine skills were divided into different grades. However, the division of divine skills was related to the degree of mystery. For example, if a divine skill only had 1 level, even if it was cultivated to the peak, it would only have 1 level. That would be the 1st level of the divine skill. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had 2 levels, that would be the 2nd level of the divine skill. 2 levels of the divine skill would naturally be stronger and more terrifying than a single level of the divine skill. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had 3 levels, that would be the 3rd level of the divine skill. The more levels a divine skill had, the greater its potential and the higher its value. Of course, the cultivation of a divine skill was very profound and complicated. Even if you had it, you might not be able to cultivate it to the highest level. For example, if a person's talent was limited and he had 3 levels of the divine skill, but he could only cultivate it to the 1st level, then its power would be no different from a single level of the divine skill. The more profound it was, the more levels it had. There were 4 levels, 5 levels, 6 levels, and even 9 levels and 10 levels. If one wanted to cultivate a divine skill, the minimum requirement was to reach the peak of the empty god realm. This was because using a divine skill would consume a lot of divine force. Without a strong divine force, one would not be able to support it. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan both had 3 levels of the divine skill, but they had only cultivated it to the 2nd level. The ancestor of technique also had 3 levels of the divine skill, but he had already cultivated it to the 3rd level. Chapter 26:19. One had to know that the ancestor of technique was only a level 3 true god, but he had already cultivated a divine skill to the 3rd level. This level of comprehension was simply terrifying. I must kill him. Kang Ji roared in his heart. The ancestor of technique was already so terrifying. If he broke through to the level 4 true god realm, it would be even more terrifying. So what if you've cultivated a divine skill to the 3rd level? You're still going to die today. Kang Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan also charged towards the ancestor of technique. Each of them unleashed the full power of their divine skills. Sword-breaking technique. The ancestor of technique's battle sword stabbed out continuously. More than a dozen sword lights pierced towards Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kansas. This was the ancestor of technique's divine skill. It had already been cultivated to the 3rd level and was extremely powerful. It constantly clashed with Kang Ji and the others' attacks. In the air, the ancestor of technique's figure retreated rapidly. However, he still managed to block Kang Ji and the others' attacks. He was only at a slight disadvantage. Kill. Kang Ji was extremely shocked. With the strength of the 3 of them, they were actually unable to take down the ancestor of techniques. Didn't that mean that without Situ Haonan he and Mo Kan were no match for the ancestor of techniques? He must kill the ancestor of technique or he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Situ Haonan also had the same thought. The walkabout sect's strength was similar to the Yuan Luo palaces. The 3 of them charged towards the ancestor of technique again. The 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Force him closer to the island. In the midst of the battle, Situ Haonan sent a message to Kang Ji and Mo Kansas. Kang Ji's eyes flashed with a trace of ferocity. Violent attacks continuously blasted out, gradually forcing the ancestor of technique towards Qinjin Island. On Qinjin Island, the people of Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect had all retreated far away. They didn't dare to stay there. Slowly their battlefield moved to Qinjin Island. Whoosh! Suddenly, a sword light burst out from a secret place on Qinjin Island. The sword light was bright and sharp. Its power was extremely terrifying and not any weaker than Situ Haonan's. The ancestor of technique, revealed a shocked expression. He knew that he had been ambushed. There was even an expert on the other side. Needless to say, he knew this was a fourth-stage True God Realm Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect. The ancestor of technique tried his best to dodge, but Kang Ji and the other two launched a fierce attack, making it difficult for the ancestor of technique to dodge. In the end, the ancestor of technique didn't manage to dodge it completely. A streak of sword light slashed across his chest, almost cutting him in half. Scram! The ancestor of techniques roared furiously. At that instant, over 100 sword glows were fired, forcing Kang Ji and the others to back away. With a flash, Kang Ji and the other three surrounded the ancestor of techniques. Very good. I didn't expect that the strongest of both of your forces would be here. The ancestor of technique's face was somewhat pale. Although he managed to avoid being hit in his vitals, he still suffered some injuries and his strength weakened a little. Fa Ming, your fate is sealed today. You're just an ant from a minor kiliacosm. It's impossible for you to defy the heavens. Kang Ji said coldly. Haha, so what if it's a minor thousand world? Could it be that you are noble just because you were born in the primordial world? How laughable. If it's a one-on-one battle, all of you are nothing but clay chickens and pottery dogs. The ancestor of technique coldly snickered and his face was full of disdain. The faces of Kang Ji and the other three darkened. Indeed, if it was a one-on-one battle, none of them would be a match for the ancestor of techniques. Even though their cultivations were much higher than theirs. You only know how to talk. The winner takes all. Fei Ming, I'll send you on your way. Kang Ji didn't waste any more words and charged towards the ancestor of techniques. At the same time, Situ Haonan and the other two also launched their attacks. Before, the ancestor of techniques was slightly weaker than the three of them. Now that he was injured, he was even weaker against the four of them. As soon as they started to exchange blows, he was at a disadvantage. The Righteous Sky Army Lord is finished. In the future, the Righteous Sky Army's territory will belong to our two forces. Not far away, the people of the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect thought excitedly. Boom, boom. The ancestor of techniques and the other four clashed fiercely. The ancestor of techniques was at a disadvantage and could only block with all his strength. Bam. After a few dozen exchanges, the ancestor of technique's body was sent flying and heavily smashed into the Qin Gold Island. Boom. Dust filled the air and the Qin Gold ores flew everywhere. A giant hole appeared on the island. At this moment, Lu Ming had already passed through the hurricane tunnel and returned to the Qin Gold mine. He followed the tunnel that Qiuqiu had dug out and headed out of the Qin Gold Island. Boom. 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 He had only walked halfway when a violent explosion came from above. Then he felt the entire island shake. Then a terrifying force rushed towards him along the vein above. Not good. Lu Ming retreated quickly. The Qin Gold mine in this area kept exploding and Lu Ming was sent flying by the force. The ancestor of techniques lay in the deep hole on the island and spat out blood. This attack had worsened his injuries. Whoosh. The ancestor of techniques barely stabilized his injuries and charged out of the deep hole. Kang Ji and the other three's auras locked onto the ancestor of techniques and trapped him in the middle. Suddenly, Kang Ji and the others were stunned because they felt the aura of life in a pile of rocks. Bam. Then the pile of rocks exploded and a figure charged out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Qiuqiu, what's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He had also encountered an unexpected disaster after passing through the Qin Gold mine. When he glanced at Kang Ji and the others, his heart skipped a beat. Kang Ji and the others' auras were too terrifying. To Lu Ming they were unfathomable. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, the ancestor of techniques also saw Lu Ming and was shocked. He flashed and appeared beside Lu Ming. Ancestor of techniques. Seeing the ancestor of techniques, Lu Ming was overjoyed. So it's an ant from the Jingtian army. Fei Ming, it's your fortune to have a brat die with you. Kang Ji said coldly as the ferocity in his eyes grew stronger. Kang Ji, master of the Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as thoughts flashed through his mind. He roughly knew what had happened. The ancestor of techniques was surrounded. Don't worry, Fei Ming. After you die, I'll send the people of the Jingtian army down to accompany you. Situ Haonan also said coldly. The four of them gradually approached the Ancestor of Techniques and prepared to launch a thunderous attack to kill the Ancestor of Techniques. Senior, this battle sword is for you. At this moment, Lu Ming took out a battle sword and handed it to the Ancestor of Techniques. This combat sword was one of the 2 middle-grade 7th-level divine weapons that Lu Ming had obtained from the cave abode. This is... Seeing this battle sword, the Ancestor of Techniques immediately widened his eyes in shock. However, without hesitation, he took it and spat a mouthful of blood onto the battle sword. He didn't have time to refine it now, but by using his blood as a sacrifice, he could temporarily unleash the power of the battle sword and control it freely. Buzz. The battle sword vibrated and a sword chi shot into the sky. Chapter 26:20. That's a medial level 7 sacred artifact. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan Mo Kan, and the others widened their eyes in shock. At the same time, there was deep greed in their eyes. Kill? The Ancestor of Technique roared and displayed the sword-breaking technique. Sword light shone brightly and pillars of sword light shot towards Kang Ji and the others. Attack. Kang Ji and the others attacked as well. 4 terrifying attacks attacked the Ancestor of Technique. Boom. Boom. There was a violent explosion and the Ancestor of Technique took a few steps back. However, Kang Ji and the others' attacks were all blocked by the Ancestor of Technique. He was only at a slight disadvantage. It's really a medial level 7 sacred artifact. Damn it, how did that kid get a medial level 7 sacred artifact? This kid must have had a fortuitous encounter. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and the others roared. However, they did not suspect that Lu Ming had obtained the sacred artifact from the cave dwelling. That was because the cave dwelling's door was too difficult to break open. There were so many of them and they needed to spend a lot of time to break it open. How could a mere Lu Ming break it open? Moreover, they had searched the cave dwelling and there were no other entrances. They only thought that Lu Ming had obtained the sacred artifact from somewhere else. Lu Ming, follow me closely. The Ancestor of Technique said. Lu Ming nodded and followed closely behind the Ancestor of Technique. Let's see who can stop me. The Ancestor of Technique's long hair fluttered in the wind. His sword chi was wild as he charged towards Kang Ji's direction. Stop him. Kang Ji roared and charged towards the Ancestor of Technique. Situ Haonan and the others also attacked. However, the Ancestor of Technique controlled the medial level 7 sacred artifact and his combat strength increased tremendously. He was no longer afraid of Kang Ji and the others. Both sides continued to attack and exchanged dozens of blows in an instant. However, the Ancestor of Technique was only at a slight disadvantage. Bam. In the end, the Ancestor of Technique forced Kang Ji to retreat and brought Lu Ming out of the encirclement. I won't keep you company today. If you want to fight, we'll fight another day. The Ancestor of Technique brought Lu Ming and flew into the distance. His voice came from afar. Damn it! Damn it! Kang Ji roared furiously, his face full of malevolence. Today was such a good opportunity, yet the Ancestor of Techniques ran away. Plus, the Ancestor of Technique had acquired a 7th-level mid-quality weapon. His battling abilities had greatly increased. This was extremely disadvantageous for them. What should we do? Situ Haonan's face turned ugly. They didn't give chase. They knew that even if they caught up, they wouldn't be able to kill the Ancestor of Techniques. If the Ancestor of Techniques fought with his life on the line, even if they managed to kill him, at least 2 of them would die. None of them wanted to die. Alliance. We must form an alliance. A true alliance. Otherwise, the Ancestor of Techniques will destroy us one by one. Kang Ji gritted his teeth. All right. Situ Haonan immediately nodded. Right now, none of them were a match for the Ancestor of Techniques. They had to join hands and support each other. Only then would they be able to fight against the Ancestor of Techniques. Also, we have to break into this cave as soon as possible. Once we get the treasures inside, we won't have to fear the Ancestor of Techniques anymore. Kang Ji said. That's right. Attack now. Situ Haonan said. With that, they immediately returned to the cave abode. They planned to take the risk and try to enter the Hurricane Passage. The Ancestor of Techniques brought Lu Ming and flew tens of thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye before stopping. Poof. The Ancestor of Techniques spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned paler. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming was a little worried. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. Kang Ji and the others shouldn't dare to chase after us. Let's rest again. Saying that, the Ancestor of Techniques took out a healing elixir and swallowed it. He began to heal his injuries. The ancestor of technique's injuries weren't too serious. Not long after, his complexion improved a lot. Lu Ming, it's all thanks to you this time. Here, I'll return this divine weapon to you. The ancestor of technique smiled and took out the 7th level mid-quality divine weapon and handed it to Lu Ming. Senior, you can keep this divine artifact for now. Lu Ming smiled and didn't take it. How can I do that? A 7th level mid-quality divine weapon is too precious. How can I accept it? The ancestor of technique shook his head. Even he, Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon. The ones they used before were all 4th level mid-quality divine weapons. Senior, just take it that I'm lending it to you. I can't use this divine weapon even if I keep it. Only you can fight against Kang Ji and the others with it. Lu Ming said. Now that the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect had joined forces, the righteous army was alone and without reinforcements. If the ancestor of techniques didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon, he probably wouldn't be their match. Only with this divine weapon could he fight against them and make them fear him. Alright, then I'll keep it for now. I'll return it to you when your cultivation increases. The ancestor of techniques pondered for a moment and didn't refuse. He also understood that Lu Ming was right. If he didn't have a 7th level mid-quality divine weapon, he really wouldn't be their match if Kang Ji and Situ Haonan joined forces. Putting away his battle sword, the ancestor of techniques brought Lu Ming to meet up with the rest of the righteous army. Ancestor of techniques, how's the situation? Should we kill our way over? We can't let the Yuan Luo Hall take over that expert's cave dwelling. The members of the righteous army said one by one. It's fine. How can the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect take over this expert's cave dwelling? Let's return to the righteous army first and spread the news that there's an expert's cave dwelling here. The ancestor of techniques said. General is wise. Since we can't have it, they can't have it for themselves either. Ha ha ha. The righteous army laughed. Then they returned to 7 Stars Island and returned to the righteous army through the island's transportation formation. Then they began to spread the news. Soon, the news of a heavenly god's cave dwelling on the northern Shang planet spread like a hurricane through the chaotic astral river and into the ears of various factions. What? A heavenly god's cave dwelling? A heavenly god's cave dwelling is extremely rare in the chaotic astral river. We can't miss it. Looks like I'll have to make a trip there myself. In the chaotic star river, all the big and small forces were alarmed. Various experts hurried to the northern Shang planet. A heavenly god was a supreme existence in the chaotic astral river. Their divine might shook the boundless starry sky. Currently, only the Cloud Peak Pavilion had a heavenly god overseeing it in the chaotic astral river. A heavenly god's cave dwelling was too attractive to the true immortal experts of various factions. Not long after, experts arrived at the Qinjinghuang vein on the northern Shang planet. They were all true immortals and most of them were at the 4th level of the true immortal realm or above. Damn it, damn that Fa Ming, damn the righteous army. Kang Ji roared furiously. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. With so many experts descending, how could they have a share? They could only follow the crowd. Even if there were treasures inside, they might not even be able to drink the soup. Any random faction here wouldn't be weaker than the Yuan Luo Hall. Kang Ji really wanted to vomit blood. After discovering this heavenly god's cave dwelling, he hadn't gotten a single thing. Chapter 26-21. One by one, experts began to barge into the cave. However, the wind tunnel at the back was extremely dangerous. Some people barged in and found that the deeper they went, the more wind tunnels there were. Wind tunnels crisscrossed, and the further they went, the stronger the wind tunnels became. Even high-level True God Realm experts couldn't barge in. Later, the Cloud Peak Pavilion's Pavilion Master personally took action. This was a Heavenly God Realm expert. He barged into the depths of the cave and reportedly obtained some treasures. As for what he obtained, no one knew. After the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master barged into the depths of the cave and took away the treasures, this matter came to an end. In the end, the Yuan Luo Palace and Walkabout sect didn't obtain anything. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan were infuriated, wishing they could kill the ancestor of technique and annihilate the righteous army. But in the end, they didn't dare to act rashly. They were actively looking for allies, hoping to find more allies to annihilate the righteous army. Of course, the ancestor of technique wasn't idle either. He was also looking for allies to resist the Yuan Luo Palace and Walkabout sect. Regarding this, Lu Ming couldn't help much. He could only focus on cultivating. In the Heavenly God's Cave's wind tunnel, Lu Ming's cultivation rose by 2 levels, reaching 7-star Heavenly Emperor realm. Next, he only needed to strengthen his foundation and advance towards the 10,000 Origin Unification realm. At the same time, after fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast for 2 years, Lu Ming's comprehension of the battle character formula had reached a peak. Now he could double his battle strength at any time. 100% success rate. However, the battle character in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable and mysterious. Lu Ming understood that he was far from comprehending it. Right now he had only scratched the surface. If he continued to comprehend it, Lu Ming felt that he could triple his battle strength. However, it wasn't that easy to triple his battle strength. Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck and needed time to comprehend it. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. After 3 years of cultivation, although Lu Ming had yet to step into the demigod realm, he felt that he was getting closer and closer to the demigod realm. On this day, a piece of news spread through the chaotic astral river, causing a huge commotion. All the factions, big and small, went crazy. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he received a message from the Ancestor of Techniques. The Ancestor of Techniques had something important to discuss with him. Is there something important? Lu Ming felt quite confused and went to a large hall in the Righteous Army. He found that there were already 5 or 6 people waiting here. 5 or 6 of them were not very old. They should not have cultivated for more than 10,000 years. They were all part of the younger generation. Tong Shi-er was among them. Lu Ming. Tong Shi-er greeted Lu Ming with a smile. The others also nodded at Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded in response, and then he gazed at Tong Shi-er and said, "Miss Shi-er, may I know why the general has summoned us?" "I don't know either." Tong Shi-er shook her head. The others also had puzzled looks on their faces. "You are all here." At this moment, the Ancestor of Techniques walked in from outside the palace. "General." Everyone bowed. No need to be so polite. The Ancestor of Techniques waved his hand and said, "You must be very curious why I called you here in such a hurry, right?" Lu Ming and the others nodded. "You should know that our chaotic galaxy belongs to the Qingtian starfield, right?" The Ancestor of Techniques said. Lu Ming and the others nodded again. At the same time they felt a little strange. Could this matter be related to the Qingtian starfield? The chaotic galaxy had hundreds of large and small factions, countless planets and incomparably vast territories. However, compared to the Qingtian starfield, it could not be compared. The Qin heavenly star field contained many galaxies. There were at least a few hundred of them. The chaotic galaxy was only one of the many galaxies in the Qingtian starfield. Moreover, it was the worst and most backward galaxy. The number of experts was also the least. What did the Ancestor of Techniques summon them here have to do with the Qingtian starfield? The Qingtian starfield's territory is too vast. There are hundreds of galaxies and there are many races living there. There are countless experts. However, among the countless factions, other than a few terrifying races, the strongest faction is the 13 sects. The 13 sects of the Qingtian starfield. Tong Shi-er and a few other youths exclaimed in unison. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had read about it in the ancient records. The 13 sects of the Qingtian starfield were 13 extremely powerful, ancient, and terrifying sections. It could be said that in the vast Qingtian starfield, other than a few terrifying races, the 13 sects stood at the peak. These 13 sects were divided into 3 overlords and the top 10 sections. Without a doubt, the 3 overlords were the strongest, followed by the top 10 sections. These 13 sects occupied half of the Qingtian starfield's territory and countless planets. They had dominated the Qingtian starfield for countless years. Factions like the Jingtian army, Yuan Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect were ants in front of the 13 sects. Even the strongest faction in the chaotic galaxy, the Yunfeng Pavilion, was no different from an ant in front of the 13 sects. To the people of the chaotic galaxy, the 13 sects were just a legend. They had only read about them in the ancient records. That's right. Every 1,000 years, the 13 sects of the Qin Heavenly Star Field will recruit a batch of disciples from all over the Qin Heavenly Star Field. Now 1,000 years have passed. The Ancestor of Techniques said. He paused here. The 13 sects of Qingtian are recruiting disciples. Tong Shi-er and the others' breathing became heavy, but they were also puzzled. General, I've read the records. The 13 sects of Qingtian will recruit a batch of disciples every 1,000 years, but they have never recruited disciples from the chaotic galaxy. What does this have to do with us? Tong Shi-er asked. The chaotic galaxy was the most backward and desolate of the many galaxies in the Qingtian starfield. It was the weakest galaxy. Every race, every force, those who couldn't survive, or those who committed crimes, all ran to the chaotic Star River. Therefore, the chaotic galaxy was a chaotic place where good and bad people mixed together. It had always been looked down upon by other galaxies. The 13 sects of the Qin-Tian starfield had never recruited disciples from the chaotic galaxy. Therefore, Tong Shi-er and the others were puzzled. It's different this time. The 13 sects of Qin-Tian announced to the world that they will be recruiting disciples from the entire Qin-Tian starfield soon, including the chaotic galaxy. The ancestor of techniques said. That's right. The chaotic galaxy will be recruiting disciples. Tong Shi-er and the other youths breathed heavily, their eyes burning with passion. They were all excited. The Qin Heavenly 13 sects had actually opened their doors to the chaotic Star River for the first time. If one could join any of the Qin Heavenly 13 sects, it would be a heaven-defying opportunity. In the future, one's cultivation would definitely soar to the skies, becoming a person above all others. The heavenly god realm was the synonym of invincibility in the chaotic galaxy. However, in the 13 sects of Qin-Tian, heavenly gods weren't anything special. There were many divine king realm existences in the 13 sects of Qin-Tian. Chapter 26-22. Such a powerful force naturally had an unimaginable amount of resources. Their cultivation conditions and environment were simply incomparable to the chaotic Star River. Moreover, if they were chosen by a heavenly god or even a divine king, they would have a bright future ahead of them. Therefore, this time, I've summoned all of you to participate in the Qin-Tian 13 sects disciple recruitment. However, it's not that easy to join the Qin-Tian 13 sects. You'll have to go through layers and layers of screening. It's extremely difficult. The ancestor of techniques said. His eyes were filled with anticipation. As long as someone from the righteous army joined the Qin-Tian 13 sects and became a disciple of the Qin-Tian 13 sects, the righteous army's status in the chaotic astral river would soar. At that time, who knew how many powers would try to curry favor with them? At that time, it would be easy to destroy the Yuan Luo Palace and the Freedom Sect. We'll do our best to join the Qin-Tian 13 sects. Tong Shi-er and the others said loudly with determination in their eyes. They understood that this was a great opportunity for them. They had to make good use of it. Alright, go back and prepare. We'll meet here 10 days later. I'll bring all of you to Yunfeng City. The first round of screening will be held there. Alright, Lu Ming, you stay here first. The ancestor of techniques looked at Lu Ming after he finished speaking. Tong Shi-er and the others left while Lu Ming stayed behind. Lu Ming was puzzled. Why did the ancestor of techniques ask him to stay? Lu Ming, the Qin-Tian 13 sects only look at talent and not cultivation base when recruiting disciples. Therefore, with your talent, you'll definitely be chosen by the Qin-Tian 13 sects. The ancestor of techniques said. Lu Ming had mastered the sovereign Tao. With such talent he would definitely be chosen. Lu Ming, which sect do you want to join? The ancestor of techniques asked. I haven't decided yet. I don't know much about the Qin-Tian 13 sects. We'll see later. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, I have a request. The ancestor of techniques pondered for a moment and suddenly sighed. Senior, please speak your mind. Lu Ming said. I would like to invite you to join a sect. After the ancestor of techniques finished speaking, he paused for a moment before continuing. Among the Qin 13 sects, the strongest are the three overlords, the Mystic Academy, the Invincible Kenzo, and the Immeasurable Sacred Ground. However, the sect I want you to join is not one of the three overlords, but one of the top 10 sects, the Kongshen School. Kongshen School? Lu Ming was somewhat puzzled. You must be very puzzled as to why I let you join the three overlord forces. Sai, I have some selfish motives here. Back then, I had some interactions with Kongshen School. Speaking up to this point, the ancestor of techniques recounted what had happened between him and the Kongshen School. It turned out that after the ancestor of techniques had escaped from the Yuan Luo Palace, he had been traveling and tempering himself in the vast universe. He had once left the chaotic galaxy and headed to other galaxies. During this process, he met a woman and fell in love with her. However, this woman was a genius of the Kongshen School. Her father was also an important figure in the Kongshen School. Her status was much higher than that of the ancestor of techniques. Naturally, the woman's father was strongly against the two of them being together. He even forcefully brought the woman back to the Kongshen School. He had once said that as long as the ancestor of techniques could not break through to the heavenly god realm, he would not allow the two of them to meet. Sai, with my talent, I'm afraid that it will be difficult for me to reach the heavenly god realm in this lifetime. Therefore, I have some selfish motives. I want you to join the Kongshen School. Speaking up to this point, the ancestor of techniques took out an exquisite dagger and said, "If you join the Kongshen school, if you have the chance, return this dagger to her. Alright, her name is Yuexin. Return it to her and tell her that I have let her down. However, this is my selfishness. If you don't want to join the Kongshen school, I won't force you," the ancestor of techniques sighed. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and helplessness. "Senior, I agree." Lu Ming smiled and took the dagger from the ancestor of techniques' hand. The ancestor of techniques incident reminded him of the incident between him and Xian Yanqing. In the Divine Wilderness continent, he and Xian Yanqing had gone through many trials and tribulations before they were together. It was somewhat similar to the ancestor of techniques incident. Moreover, Lu Ming did not really care about which sect he joined. He had Jingyu's inheritance, but he still had not broken the seal on Jingyu's portrait. Once the seal was broken, Lu Ming believed that he would definitely gain something. Moreover, he still had the battle formula to learn. The main reason he joined a sect was to obtain resources. All sorts of resources that would help his cultivation. Moreover, there was another reason. Although the Kongshen school was one of the top 10 sects, it was ranked first among the top 10 sects. In this aspect, it was not much weaker than the three overlords. Lu Ming, thank you. The ancestor of techniques cupped his fists solemnly. Senior, you're too kind. Lu Ming quickly helped the ancestor of techniques up and said, Senior, I have some friends. Can they join the Qin Tian 13 sect's recruitment? He thought of Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan. Of course. Those who have not cultivated for 10,000 years can join. I remember that your wife is extremely talented. Originally, I wanted to ask you to bring her along. However, if you want to join the selection, you have to be at least level 1 empty god realm. However, your combat strength is extremely powerful and you don't have to meet this condition. The ancestor of techniques said. Do I need to be at level 1 empty god realm? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Originally he wanted to ask Bubbles, his disciples Xiang Xiang, Ouyang Moli and the others. However, it seemed that only Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan and Dandan met the conditions. Immediately, Lu Ming bid farewell to the ancestor of techniques and returned to his residence. After returning to his residence, Lu Ming looked for Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan and told them about the Qin Tian 13 sect's recruitment. Dandan immediately raised both his hands in agreement. Xian Yanqing naturally wanted to go wherever Lu Ming went. I agree. Xian Yanjuan did not hesitate and agreed immediately. To Xian Yanjuan, she did not care about the god realm or the supreme being. She also did not care about the divine skill or the divine skill. What she cared about was the cultivation resources and the excellent cultivation environment of the powerful forces. That would allow her strength to increase tremendously. During this period of time, all the forces in the chaotic galaxy were excited. They gathered all the young experts who met the conditions to join the Qin Tian 13 sect's recruitment. In a hall in the Yuan Luo Palace, 8 young men were lined up in a row. Kong Long was among them. At the front was the Yuan Luo Palace master, Kong Ji. This time all of you must do your best. At least one of you must join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Even if it is the weakest sect among the 13 sects, the Yuan Luo Palace's prestige in the chaotic galaxy will increase greatly. At that time we will not be afraid of the Yunfeng Pavilion. Do you understand? Kong Ji said loudly. Yes, we will do our best. Kong Long and the others said loudly. Chapter 26-23. The Walkabout sect master, Situ Haonan, had also gathered all the young geniuses who met the requirements. At least one of you has to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. Situ Haonan said loudly as he looked at the 9 young men and women. In the end, his gaze landed on a young man with a cold expression. This young man was his son, Situ Zhao's elder brother, Situ Feng. Situ Haonan's eyes were filled with hope as he looked at Situ Feng. Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation and had no interest in anything else. However, he knew that Situ Feng's comprehension ability was extremely shocking. With his shocking comprehension ability, it was very likely that he would be chosen by the Qin Tian 13 sects and be accepted as a disciple. That was his hope. Once Situ Feng joined the Qin Tian 13 sects, the righteous army would be destroyed with a flip of his hand. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The geniuses of various factions began to gather at Cloud Peak City. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan also met up with the ancestor of techniques, Tong Shi'er and the others. It was worth mentioning that Bubbles, Lu Ming's disciple, Xiang Xiang, and Ouyang Moli also wanted to go and take a look. They said that they wanted to see Lu Ming's glory. Lu Ming also brought them along. After stepping into the transportation array, they arrived at Cloud Peak City a few days later. This was Lu Ming's second time in Cloud Peak City. Cloud Peak City was as lively as usual. On the streets, people came and went, and there were many shops. After arriving at Cloud Peak City, the ancestor of techniques brought them to the Cloud Peak Pavilion to register. It wasn't easy to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sect's disciple recruitment. First, they had to go through the selection process of Cloud Peak City. Only those who were selected by Cloud Peak City would be recommended to participate in the Qin Tian 13 sect's disciple recruitment. Therefore, a large number of people would be selected from the beginning. After 7 days, those who are participating in the selection process will gather at Cloud Peak Plaza, said the person who was registering. Thank you. The ancestor of techniques cupped his fists in gratitude. After signing up, they found an inn to stay in and waited. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and the others headed towards Yun Peak Square. The Yun Peak Square was vast and could accommodate 1 million people at the same time. At this moment, the surroundings of Yun Peak Square were already packed with people. There were all sorts of races. Lu Ming glanced over and discovered dozens of races. Of course, most of them were here to watch and did not have the qualifications to participate in the selection. Those who participate in the screening enter the square. Those who do not have the qualifications to participate leave the square. Above the square there was a middle-aged man in battle armor. His skin was golden yellow and he looked like a bronze statue. This was the Copper Skin race, a small race in the Qintian starfield. However, the aura emitted by this burly man was terrifying to the extreme. It pressured many people to the point that they could not breathe. He's much stronger than the Yuan Luo Hall Master and the Dharma Ancestor. Lu Ming's heart stirred. This burly man's cultivation was absolutely at the 6th level True God realm and above. It was even possible that he was a terrifying existence at the 7th level True God realm and above. Many people couldn't help but retreat out of the square. Only a few young people who were participating in the selection walked into the square. Go ahead. Just do your best, the Dharma Ancestor reminded. Lu Ming and the rest nodded and stepped into the square. Stepping into the square, Lu Ming immediately noticed a few eyes looking at him. Kong Long, Situ Shao. Lu Ming looked around and discovered Kong Long and Situ Shao. At this moment, the two of them were looking at Lu Ming with a sinister expression. Lu Ming smiled faintly and ignored the two of them. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the square. In the chaotic galaxy, forces like the Righteous Sky Army and the Yuan Luo Hall, or forces that were stronger than them, added up to close to 1,000 people. The smaller ones had 5 or 6 people, while the smaller ones had 7 or 8 people participating. Some of the bigger forces had dozens of people. For example, the Yun Peak Pavilion had sent over 200 people to participate. All the forces had sent out more than 50,000 people. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master has arrived. Suddenly a voice sounded. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The Cloud Peak Pavilion's Pavilion Master was about to descend. He was currently the strongest person in the chaotic astral river. He was also the only heavenly god. Whoosh, whoosh. In the distance, rays of light flew over and stood in the air above the square. There was a total of 5 people and 4 of them emitted a terrifying aura. Their auras were many times stronger than the burly man from the Copper Skin clan. However, the 4 of them were following behind a beautiful middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman was a human and she didn't seem to have any aura. Greetings to the Pavilion Master. However, the burly man from the Copper Skin clan and the other experts of the Yun Peak Pavilion all bowed respectfully to the middle-aged woman. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master is actually a woman. At this moment, many people's hearts jumped and they revealed a surprised expression. For countless years, this is the first time the Qin Tian 13 sects have opened their doors to the chaotic galaxy to recruit disciples. This is a supreme opportunity for all of you. Everyone, you must make good use of it. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master's clear voice rang in everyone's ears. However, all of you must be mentally prepared. The Qin Tian 13 sect's standards for recruiting disciples are shockingly high. Without a certain level of talent, it's impossible to be chosen. Therefore, today there will be a screening. For those who pass the screening, I will recommend you to participate in the later tests of the Qin Tian 13 sects. Speaking until here, the Yun Peak Pavilion Master waved his hand and a small pagoda flew out. The small pagoda was bronze in color and the moment it flew out, it rapidly expanded. In the end, it turned into a huge pagoda that floated in the air. It had a total of 81 floors. The screening is simple. You just have to challenge the pagoda. In this pagoda there will be some puppets on every floor. You will enter the pagoda and challenge it. As long as you pass the 36th floor you will pass. When you enter the pagoda, a token will appear and follow you. Once you pass the 36th floor, the token will shine and no one will be able to cheat. 10,000 people in a group enter. The Yun Peak Pavilion Master announced. It's just challenging the pagoda. This is simple. Let me go first. A burly young man took the lead and flew into the huge pagoda. Let's go. Me too. Instantly, figures flew into the sky and into the huge pagoda. When 10,000 people entered the huge pagoda's door automatically closed. Everyone waited patiently. When everyone flew into the huge pagoda, they could see that the first floor of the pagoda was shining brightly. However, in just a few breaths' time, the second floor of the huge pagoda was also shining brightly. This meant that someone had already reached the second floor of the huge pagoda. However, very soon the third, fourth and fifth floors lit up. Lu Ming and the rest did not enter. They wanted to take a look first. Chapter 26-24. So fast. The 20th floor lit up. It's the 21st floor. Many people exclaimed. Clearly there were some terrifying prodigies in this group who were extremely fast. Half an hour later. Suddenly the space around the tower trembled. Then the figure of a young snake man appeared. A token floated above the young man's head, but this token was dim. Clearly this young man had been eliminated. He had been sent out without passing the 36th floor. Eliminated. Leave the square. The burly copper-skinned man from before said. The young snake man's face was extremely ugly. He was extremely unwilling. Lord, I was careless just now. Can you give me another chance? The young snake man cried out. He was unwilling to miss such an opportunity. If he could join the Qingtian 13 sects, he would be able to soar into the sky. Leave the square. I'll say it one last time. The copper-skinned man said coldly. A cold aura emanated from his body. The young snake man shuddered. He didn't dare to stay any longer and flew out of the square. As soon as he flew out of the square, the token above his head automatically dissipated. Next, people were sent out of the tower. They were all eliminated. Those who were eliminated all had ugly expressions. They knew that they had lost a great opportunity. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master and the others looked on coldly. If they couldn't pass such a selection, even if they participated in the recruitment test of the Qingtian 13 sects, they had no chance of passing. They would only be a joke. As time passed, more and more people were eliminated. Seeing this, the young men who hadn't entered the tower started to get nervous. However, the light on the giant tower was getting brighter and brighter. It's the 36th floor. Someone has passed the 36th floor. Someone shouted. At this moment, the 36th floor was shining. However, the person who had passed the 36th floor hadn't come out yet. It was obvious that he still wanted to continue. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master didn't say that one had to come out after passing the 36th floor. After passing the 36th floor, one could still continue. The higher the floor, the stronger the person would be and the more the Yunfeng Pavilion Master would value them. As expected, the 37th floor lit up not long after. However, after the 36th floor lit up, the speed of passing became much slower. Moreover, more and more people were sent out. In the end, nearly 9,000 people were teleported out. All of them had failed the trial. However, soon after, there were also those who were teleported out. The tokens above their heads were glowing brightly, indicating that they had passed the trial. Many people looked at these people enviously. The people who had succeeded all revealed looks of joy. Aha, this is a disciple of my Yellow Wind sect. He passed the selection. That's a disciple of my Flowing Cloud sect. He passed as well. Outside the square, some people laughed in surprise. They were all experts from various forces. Some people were happy while others were sad. However, the trial wasn't over yet. It took half a day before the last person was teleported out. This was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He had made it to the 46th level and was ranked first in this group. His face was cold and arrogant as he scanned the surroundings, giving off a feeling of being in control of the world. With such talent, there's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 sects. Very likely. Around the square, the experts of various forces were all envious. As for the people from that young man's faction, they were all overjoyed. Being ranked first among 10,000 people meant that he had a high chance of being chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 sects. This was because there were only 50 to 60,000 youths in the chaotic galaxy who had participated in the selection. Out of the 10,000 people in the first batch, 9,000 were eliminated and only 1,000 or so passed. The elimination rate was 90%. Those who hadn't participated in the trial were extremely nervous. Some of them had even started to sweat. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and the others were very relaxed. Next batch. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master ordered. Immediately, another 10,000 people flew into the giant tower. Among them Lu Ming saw Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the others. After the 10,000 people flew into the giant tower closed and everyone waited patiently. The Yuan Luo Palace Master Kong Ji and the Walkabout Sect Master Situ Haonan looked at the giant tower nervously. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and anxiety. This time, it only lasted for 20 minutes before someone was teleported out. After that, more and more people were eliminated. In the end, more than 9,000 people were eliminated. Buzz buzz, another person was teleported out. Among them were Kong Long and Situ Xiao. However, the tokens above their heads shone brightly. It was obvious that they had passed. Their faces were filled with smiles and excitement. When they looked at Lu Ming, their eyes were filled with provocation. Brat, wait until I join the Qingtian 13 sects. I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. Kong Long couldn't help but send a message to Lu Ming. The corner of Lu Ming's mouth rose, revealing a trace of mockery. He then looked in another direction and ignored Kong Long. Ha! Outside the square, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan laughed. They were so excited that their mouths cracked. Especially Kong Long and Situ Haonan, they even looked at the Ancestor of Technique provocatively. However, they were ignored by the Ancestor of Technique. The Ancestor of Technique knew the talents of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Kong Long and the others were nothing compared to them. The trial continued and some people had yet to come out. As time passed, some people had already passed the 45th floor and were heading towards the 46th floor, catching up to the first place of the previous batch. Not long after, the 46th floor lit up. They had already caught up with the best result of the first batch. However, it was obvious that the trial was still ongoing. Then, the 47th, 48th and 49th floors gradually lit up. Amazing. Someone from this group actually managed to pass the 49th floor. Amazing. I wonder which faction's prodigy it is. It's very likely that he was chosen by the Qingtian 13 sects. Look, it's the 50th floor. In the square, countless people stared at the giant tower and discussed animatedly. Even the Yunfeng Pavilion Master's eyes lit up. Feng hasn't come out yet. Could it be that Feng is inside? At this moment, Situ Haonan was excited. That was because his son, Situ Feng, had not come out yet. Almost everyone else had come out. Could it be that Situ Feng was the one who was challenging the tower? Situ Haonan was extremely excited at the thought of that. Look, it's the 51st floor. Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked. That person had actually reached the 51st level. They were all very curious. Who was it that could reach the 51st level? However, the 51st floor was still not the limit. 52nd, 53rd. A day later, the 55th floor lit up. It was almost 10 floors higher than the first place of the previous batch. That was extremely shocking. At this moment, the void around the giant tower trembled, and the figure of a young man appeared. The token above the young man's head shone like a sun. Chapter 26-25. Big Brother. It's my big brother. Situ Xiao cried out in joy when he saw the young man. The young man was Situ Feng. Everyone's eyes were on Situ Feng. They were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Not bad. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master looked at Situ Feng with satisfaction. As the strongest force in the chaotic galaxy, the Yunfeng Pavilion had the right to recommend geniuses to participate in the Qingtian 13 sects recruitment test. Moreover, once someone was selected by the 13 sects, she would be rewarded. Therefore, the more geniuses there were in the chaotic galaxy, the happier she would be. With Situ Feng's talent, there was a high chance that he would be selected by the Qingtian 13 sects. He might even be selected by the three overlords. It wasn't difficult to become a disciple of one of the three overlords, but once he joined, his future would be limitless. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master's eyes were burning. Haha, it's Fenger. It's my son Situ Feng. It's my son. At this moment, Situ Haonan reacted and laughed in joy. Brother Situ, congratulations. Kong Ji forced a smile on his face and congratulated Situ Haonan. In his heart he was extremely jealous. With Situ Feng's talent, once he joined the 13 sects and was selected by one of the big shots, the Walkabout sect status would rise. Although he was jealous, he still had to maintain a good relationship with Situ Haonan on the surface. Brother Situ, so that prodigy is your son. Your son's talent is truly shocking. Not bad, not bad. Brother Situ, I'll treat you to a drink next time. You must accept my invitation. Brother Situ. Immediately, the leaders of the big forces around Situ Haonan greeted him with smiles on their faces. It was obvious that they were trying to curry favor with Situ Haonan. What a joke. Situ Feng's talent was too shocking. There was a high chance that he would be selected by the 13 sects as a disciple. If they didn't curry favor with Situ Haonan now, when would they? Haha, you're all too polite. He might not be selected by the Qintian 13 sects. It's still not certain, Situ Haonan grinned. Although he had said that Situ Feng might not necessarily be chosen by the 13 sects, his expression was extremely excited. It was as if he could already see Situ Feng being chosen by the 13 sects and even being accepted as a disciple by some big shot of the 13 sects. His heart was at ease. This Situ Feng actually has such shocking talent. In the crowd, the ancestor of techniques was also shocked. He had heard of Situ Feng's name before. It was rumored that Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation. He did not expect Situ Feng's talent to be so shocking. However, when he thought of Lu Ming, he felt relieved. No matter how great his talent was, how could he compare to Lu Ming? Lu Ming controlled the Tao of the sovereign realm. Once he became a god, he would transform his god force into divine-grade god force. Even in the vast and boundless Qintian star field, there were probably only a few who could control divine-grade divine force. Overall, this batch of people was similar to the first batch. About 90% of them were eliminated, and only about 1,000 people succeeded. Among them, there were 2 from the Yuan Luo Palace and 3 from the Freedom Sect. Lu Ming's expression was calm and he was unmoved. The second batch is finished. The third batch go in. The Cloud Peak Pavilion's pavilion master instructed once more. Let's go in. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and the others. Okay. Xian Yanqing and the others nodded and then flew into the giant tower. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the giant tower, his surroundings immediately changed. He appeared in a spacious secret room. There was no one around except for him. This was within Lu Ming's expectations. This giant tower was obviously set up with a grand formation. Once one entered, they would most likely be alone. It was impossible to enter with others. A token appeared above Lu Ming's head. At this moment, the secret room lit up and several figures condensed. These figures were all puppets condensed by the grand formation. They charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swept out, shattering these puppets one by one. He had passed the first floor. There was a staircase in the secret room. Lu Ming climbed up the stairs and arrived at the second floor. As expected, more puppets were condensed. Their strength was slightly stronger than the first floor, but it was not difficult for Lu Ming. With a sweep of his spear, the puppets were shattered, and Lu Ming ascended to the third floor. In this manner, Lu Ming continued to advance with an irresistible force. Third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor. Soon Lu Ming arrived at the 30th floor. At this point, the strength of the puppets was quite strong, but it was still not difficult for Lu Ming. At most, his speed would be slightly reduced. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The long spear vibrated and pierced through the puppets, shattering them into pieces. Lu Ming set foot on the 31st floor. Then it was the 32nd floor, the 33rd floor. Soon Lu Ming reached the 36th floor. When Lu Ming defeated all the puppets on the 36th floor, the token above his head shone brightly. This meant that Lu Ming had passed. Enough. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not continue. Instead, he walked towards a light door at the side. Lu Ming did not intend to continue. It was enough. As long as he passed, it was enough. There was no need to attract too much attention. His goal was to join the Qintian 13 sects. Now it was just a selection. As long as he could pass, it would be fine. Lu Ming stepped into the light gate and was teleported out of the huge pagoda. When Lu Ming came out, a few gazes swept over him. This included Kong Long, Situ Shao, Kong Ji and the others. Humph, he was teleported out so early. The brightness of his token is not even as high as mine. I guess he just passed the 36th floor. Kong Long sneered. Not bad. I thought he was very talented, but it seems like he is only SOSO. Situ Shao sneered. As for Kong Ji and Situ Haonan, they were also discussing. I didn't expect this kid from the righteous army to succeed. However, looking at the brightness of his token, it is only SOSO. There is almost no hope for him to join the Qintian 13 sects. Kong Ji sneered and deliberately raised his voice to let the technique ancestor hear him. Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He was too lazy to care. He was very clear about Lu Ming's talent. If he went all out, he would not have come out so early. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not want to attract too much attention. It was fine as long as he could pass. Lu Ming did not attract the attention of others. Not long after Lu Ming came out, Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, Dandan, and the others came out one after another. Naturally, they had all passed. However, the brightness of their tokens was about the same as Lu Ming's. Obviously, their thoughts were similar to Lu Ming's. They only wanted to pass. After a period of time, Tong Shi also came out. Tong Shi also passed. The brightness of her token was much brighter than Lu Ming's. She had passed the 40th floor. Chapter 26-26. After a period of time, Lu Ming and the rest of the group also ended their challenge. However, there was no one else as amazing as Situ Feng in this group. The highest they passed was the 45th floor, which was the same as the highest in the first group. Next was the 4th and 5th batches. There were also outstanding geniuses in the last 2 batches, but there was only one person who passed the 50th floor. No one could surpass Situ Feng. This made Situ Feng the center of attention, and he became the #1 genius of the chaotic astral river's younger generation. Situ Haonan and the Walkabout sect were naturally flattered. A group of faction leaders surrounded Situ Haonan and tried to curry favor with him. Situ Haonan's face was full of smiles. My son Situ Feng is such a genius. My Walkabout sect will definitely rise. When my son joins the Qin Heavenly 13 sects, the righteous army will be able to destroy him. Situ Haonan's eyes turned cold as this thought flashed through his mind. After the 5th batch, this round of selections had all come to an end. Those who passed were elated, while those who failed were dispirited. High up in the sky, the Cloud Peak Pavilion's pavilion master waved her hand, and the giant pagoda shrank and was put away by her. Alright, the selection is over. A total of 5,050 people passed the selection. The Cloud Peak Pavilion's pavilion master paused for a moment before continuing. However, this is only the selection I set. Don't think that you can participate in the recruitment test of the 13 sects just because you passed. You still need to pass the test of the 13 sects envoys. Only when the envoys think that you pass will you be considered qualified. Understand? Many people's hearts tightened. It turned out that they still needed to pass the test of the envoys of the 13 sects. Otherwise, they would not be considered qualified and might not be able to participate in the recruitment test. Alright, you all go back first. Gather here in 3 days. The envoys will come and personally test you. The Cloud Peak Pavilion master turned and left. The crowd on the square also dispersed one by one. Lu Ming's group returned to the inn and waited quietly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, they returned to the square once again. The square was still surrounded by people. However, only Lu Ming and the rest who had successfully passed the previous round could enter the square. Soon, all 5,060 people had gathered. They're here. Someone suddenly spoke. Everyone's gaze turned in a certain direction. There were a few people flying over from that direction. One of them was the Yunfeng Pavilion Master. But now, the Yunfeng Pavilion Master was not walking at the front. Instead, he was walking behind. He was accompanying an elder in a brocade robe with a smile on his face. The elder in the brocade robe was tall and sturdy. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back and exuded a majestic aura that gave others great pressure. An expert. The elder in the brocade robe was definitely a terrifying expert. He was even more powerful than the pavilion master of Yunfeng Pavilion. There was no doubt that he was a divine realm expert. Everyone did not need to guess to know that this was the envoy sent by the Qin Heaven 13 sects. Envoy Lin, these are the geniuses selected by my chaotic star river. Standing in the sky, the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master introduced the Cloud Peak Pavilion to the old man in the brocade robe with a smile. Even though she was the Yunfeng Pavilion Master, she did not dare to be careless in front of such a person. The brocade-robed old man's gaze swept over Lu Ming's group of 5,060 people. He frowned slightly and said, "These are the heavens' prides of the chaotic galaxy? Too weak." The contempt in his words was self-evident. Too weak? Many people's hearts tightened. They were too weak? These 5,060 people could be said to be the strongest group of people among the younger generation of the chaotic Star River. However, in the eyes of the elder in the brocade robe, they were too weak. In particular, some of the young geniuses were very confident. Now that they were being looked down upon, they felt a little indignant. With such standards, you still want to participate in the assessment of the Qin Heaven 13 sects. Isn't that a little ridiculous? The elder in the brocade robe added. This time, even the Yunfeng Pavilion master was a little embarrassed. His face was slightly red. All right, I won't say any more nonsense. If you really want to participate in the assessment of the Qin Heaven 13 sects, you still have to pass through me. Having said that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and a stone door flew out. As soon as the stone door flew out, it expanded rapidly and became 100 feet tall. With a loud bang, it landed on the square. As long as you can pass through this door, you will pass my assessment. Then, it will be difficult for you to participate in the assessment of the Qin Heaven 13 sects. The elder in the brocade robe said. So simple? Many people were stunned. As long as they could pass through this door, they would pass the elder's assessment. It was definitely not simple. Then many people had the same thought. Their eyes flickered as thoughts ran through their minds. Who will go first? The elder in the brocade robe asked. However, for a moment, no one went forward. Everyone had the same thought. They didn't understand the assessment of this door and wanted to wait for others to go first. Everyone looked at each other. No one wants to go first? The elder in the brocade robe asked again. A trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes. I'll go first. At this moment, Lu Ming spoke and stepped out. It was the same whether he went first or later. He might as well go first. Moreover, Lu Ming was confident that he could pass. If he couldn't pass, no one in the entire chaotic galaxy would be able to pass. Lu Ming stepped out and arrived in front of the stone door. Both inside and outside the square, everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Ming. It's this kid. Ah, he actually dares to go first. How stupid. I hope he can't pass. Outside the square, Kang Ji sneered. This kid is really stupid. How dare he scout for others? In the square, Kang Long also sneered. Bang, bang. Lu Ming didn't stop and stepped into the stone door at a constant speed. Buzz. Just as Lu Ming stepped into the stone door glowed and runes appeared. Then, several crimson divine lights blasted towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Swoosh, swoosh. Lu Ming made his move. His palm was like a knife, constantly slashing out and destroying the red lights. It was effortless and without any difficulty. That is, the elder in the brocade robe widened his eyes when he saw Lu Ming make his move. There was a trace of surprise and doubt in his eyes. What kind of power is that? It looks like the legendary Sovereign Tao, but how is it possible in a mere chaotic galaxy? The elder in the brocade robe whispered. The reason why he didn't fully recognize Lu Ming's Sovereign Tao was because Lu Ming had recently found a way to make some changes to the Sovereign Tao. For example, the color of the Sovereign Tao that Lu Ming was using was dark purple, which wasn't as conspicuous. As long as Lu Ming didn't use his full strength, it wouldn't be fully visible. Lu Ming continued to step forward. The stone door glowed brighter and more lights burst out, bombarding Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming casually waved his hand and destroyed all the divine lights. Simple. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward again. This time, more divine lights blasted, but they were easily destroyed by Lu Ming. After this attack, there were no more attacks. Lu Ming stepped through the stone door. Chapter 26-27. Pass. The old man in the brocade robe said. At the same time, many thoughts crossed his mind. This person is special. I must observe him closely. Although he was not certain that Lu Ming had mastered the Tao of Sovereign, the Tao of Sovereign was not to be underestimated. If it was true, it would be a big deal. He passed. Oh, so it's that easy. I thought it would be difficult. It seems like it's easier than the Tower Challenge. It seems like the Yunfeng Pavilion Master's test is stricter. That's right. If that kid can pass, I'll have a piece of cake. Seeing that Lu Ming had passed easily, many people relaxed and smiled. They all thought that the test set by the old man in the brocade robe was very simple. Who's next? The old man in the brocade robe said. Me. Immediately, hundreds of people shouted and rushed toward the stone door. Since the test was so simple, they would of course go up early to show off. One by one. The old man in the brocade robe said coldly. A powerful aura pressed down, causing the hundreds of young people to stop. You first. The old man in the brocade robe pointed at a handsome young man. Ah, me first. The young man laughed and rushed toward the stone door as if he was going to rush through in one go. Buzz. When he stepped through the stone door, it immediately lit up. A few rays of divine light flew out and blasted toward the young man. The young man looked relaxed. He unleashed his divine power and waved his hand. He wanted to copy Lu Ming and easily defeat the divine light. However, when the young man came in contact with the divine light, his face changed. His face was filled with disbelief. Then he screamed and flew backward. He fell heavily to the ground and vomited blood. His body twitched non-stop. What? Many people were stunned. How could this young man not even be able to withstand the first attack and be sent flying? When Lu Ming passed the test just now, it was very easy for him. What was going on? Many people were dumbfounded. The young man who was sent flying struggled to get up and swallowed a healing pill to stabilize his injuries. Failed. Next. The old man in the brocade robe said coldly. Wait, senior, wait. The young man who had failed yelled. What is it? The embroidered robed old man said. Senior, this isn't fair. I don't think it's fair. When that brat passed through the stone door's attack wasn't that strong. Why did the stone door's attack become so strong when I passed through? The young man cried out in grievance. He could clearly see that Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial realm while he was at the second level of the empty god realm. There was no reason why he couldn't pass if Lu Ming could. Impudent! You dare to doubt the emissary? Yunfeng Pavilion Master shouted coldly. The young man immediately broke out in cold sweat. It's fine. The old man raised his hand and stopped the Yunfeng Pavilion Master. After that, he scanned the crowd and said, Let me tell you, my test is absolutely fair. However, I can also tell you that the stone door will be attacked differently depending on the person who enters. The stone door will adjust according to the age of the person who enters, the strength of their divine power, and so on. Only those who are more talented will be able to pass through it. Those who are mediocre will never be able to pass through it. Do you understand? Moreover, the Qin Tian 13 sects have never looked at your cultivation level when recruiting disciples. This is because cultivation level is meaningless to the Qin Tian 13 sects. Even if you are a divine realm expert, you will not be of much use to the Qin Tian 13 sects. The Qin Tian 13 sects recruit disciples based on their talent and potential. The old man in the brocade robe's voice rang in everyone's ears. Indeed, cultivation level was meaningless to the Qin Tian 13 sects. There was no difference between the first level of the empty god realm and the ninth level of the empty god realm in their eyes. What they wanted was talent and potential. However, the handsome young man still had a look of unwillingness on his face. Why could a transformation void martial realm expert pass through while he, a level 2 empty god, could not? It seems like you are still unconvinced. However, do you really think that you can defeat him just because your cultivation level is higher than his? The old man in the brocade robe said flatly. Of course I can defeat him. I only need 3 moves. No, I only need 1 move to defeat him. The handsome young man shouted as he looked at Lu Ming with dissatisfaction. Since that is the case, I will let the 2 of you fight and let you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Young man, are you willing to fight? The old man in the brocade robe looked at Lu Ming as he spoke. No problem. Lu Ming smiled as he stepped forward and arrived in front of the handsome young man. Young man, I will defeat you in 1 move. I will let everyone know who is qualified to participate in the assessment of the 13 sects. The handsome young man said arrogantly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He then rushed out and threw out a blow with all his might. A huge palm print was thrown towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's face was calm as he stood there without moving. It was as if he did not see the young man's attack. When the young man's palm energy was close, Lu Ming pointed out a finger. The finger energy was like a spear as it pierced through the young man's palm print and hit his shoulder. The handsome young man screamed as his shoulder was pierced. The powerful force sent him flying to the edge of the square. He fell heavily on the ground and vomited blood. The square quieted down. 1 move. With just 1 move, Lu Ming defeated the handsome young man. It was just like how he had passed through the stone door earlier. It was effortless. What a powerful genius. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial realm. It was incredible that he could defeat a level 2 empty god realm expert. After Lu Ming pointed out a finger, he turned around and walked back. A level 2 empty god realm expert with ordinary divine power was no challenge to Lu Ming. What a powerful divine power. If he breaks through to the martial god realm, even if he doesn't have divine grade divine power, he would have at least king grade divine power. I didn't expect the chaotic galaxy to have such a powerful genius. The old man's eyes brightened. Umph. Kong Long, Situ Xiao, and the others harumphed coldly. They were unhappy to see Lu Ming in the limelight. On the other hand, Situ Feng's face was calm. No one could tell what he was thinking. Did you see that? My stone door is absolutely fair. The test will continue. A loss is a loss and a win is a win. If anyone has any doubts, they will be disqualified. The old man announced in an overbearing manner. He had agreed to challenge Lu Ming because he wanted to see how Lu Ming would deal with him. Otherwise, the handsome young man would have been kicked out if he dared to doubt him. The test continued. Another young man stepped forward, but he failed and was sent flying by the stone door. Chapter 26-28. As the number of people taking the test increased, the crowd was shocked to find that the test's difficulty was shockingly high. The elimination rate was shockingly high. Out of 10 people, only one would be able to pass. At this time, everyone understood that they had completely underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming could pass through the stone door easily. It was not because it was easy to pass through the stone door. It was because Lu Ming was talented and powerful that he could pass through it easily. Situ Feng is making his move. Suddenly someone spoke. Situ Feng calmly walked towards the stone door. A battle sword appeared in his hand. Sword lights burst forth from his sword. Each time, his sword lights pierced through the air. They didn't collide with the divine lights coming from the stone door. However, those divine lights were disappearing one by one. Situ Feng also easily passed the test. Pretty good comprehension. The old man nodded slightly. After Situ Feng, it was Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the others. Kong Long and Situ Xiao both controlled King-grade divine force. Although it wasn't easy, they still passed one by one. However, the other two people from the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect all failed. In this way, only 3 people from the Yuan Luo Hall and the Walkabout sect passed. Soon, Dandan, Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, Tong Shi'er, and the others also stepped forward. As the world divine turtle, Dandan also had shocking potential after ascending to godhood. With king-grade divine force, he also passed the test. Needless to say, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan passed easily. This made the old man's eyes light up. Tong Shi'er also passed the test, but the rest of the righteous army failed. In this way, including Lu Ming's group, only 5 people from the righteous army passed. This made Kong Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others' expressions turn ugly. The stone door test continued for several days. Finally, all 5,060 people were tested. 500 people. In the end, only 500 people passed the stone door test. The others all failed. This success rate was shockingly low. In the entire chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 forces and 50 to 60,000 young geniuses. In the end, only 500 people passed the test. The probability was 1%. Alright, my test is over. The 500 of you can head to the Myriad Spirit Star of the Qin Heavenly Star to participate in the test of the Qin Heavenly 13 sects. Take this jade token. With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and 500 jade cards flew out, flying towards Lu Ming and the rest. They reached out their hands and borrowed the jade tablets. Each of them had one. The jade tablet was warm and heavy to the touch. There were many tiny runes on it, and it looked very beautiful. On one side of the jade token, there was a picture of a ruin. The pattern of ruins on the jade tablet is a representation of the chaotic galaxy. Different galaxies have different patterns and symbols. The embroidered robed old man said. Many people smiled bitterly. Indeed, the chaotic galaxy was a ruin in the eyes of many powerful and wealthy galaxies. Now use your own blood to carve your names on the jade medallion. This jade medallion will be bound to you and only you can use it. Even if others take it, they won't be able to use it. This is the proof of your participation in the Qin Tian 13 sects test. The embroidered robed old man said. Immediately, Lu Ming forced out a drop of blood and wrote, Lu Ming on the jade tablet. After writing, the blood seeped into the jade tablet and disappeared. This jade tablet was completely bound to Lu Ming's aura. Other than Lu Ming, no one else could use it. This was to prevent people from attacking the participants, snatching the jade tablets of others and impersonating others. In this way, even if one snatched the jade tablet, it would be useless. Alright, the test of the Qin Tian 13 sects will be held in the Myriad Spirit Star in 3 months. You can go there within 3 months. However, I can tell you in advance. Don't think that you can join the Qin Tian 13 sects just because you passed my test. It's extremely difficult to join the Qin Tian 13 sects. It's considered good if 20 of you can join the Qin Tian 13 sects. After saying that, the embroidered robed old man turned and left. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master and the others accompanied him. It's considered good if 20 of you can join the Qin Tian 13 sects? Many people were shocked and their faces turned grave. Everyone left, each with their own thoughts. Let's go. We'll return to the Just Sky Army first. I'll make some arrangements and take you to the Myriad Spirit Star. The ancestor of techniques said. Then, everyone returned to the Just Sky Star through the teleportation array. Lu Ming returned to his residence and left some instructions. He also bid farewell to his parents. If he joined a sect to cultivate on the Myriad Spirit Star, he probably wouldn't return in a short period of time. The ancestor of techniques also made arrangements for the Just Sky army. Then he took Lu Ming and the others and set off. Xiang, Lu Ming and Ouyang Moli stayed on the Just Sky Star. However, Bubbles pestered Lu Ming wanting to follow Lu Ming. Lu Ming also brought Bubbles along. Lu Ming, Xian Yanjuan, Dandan, Bubbles, Tong Shi, and the ancestor of techniques. A total of 7 people headed toward the Myriad Spirit Star. The Myriad Spirit Star was located in the center of the Qingtian galaxy. It was at least dozens of galaxies away from the chaotic galaxy. It was simply too far. Even if they used the teleportation array, it would still take a long time. They first arrived at Yunfeng City and used the city's super long-distance teleportation array to teleport to the next galaxy. After that, they continued to travel by extremely long-distance teleportation formations. This way their speed would be much faster. Of course, the consumption of divine crystals was also astonishing. The teleportation array couldn't be made for free. Every time they used it, divine crystals would be consumed. Even so, they still used nearly 2 months to reach the Myriad Spirit Star. At this time, there was less than a month left before the 3-month deadline. What a dense divine chi. Standing on the ground of the Myriad Spirit Star, they took a deep breath and felt the surging divine chi enter their bodies. They felt comfortable all over. The cultivation environment here was much better than that of the chaotic galaxy. The difference was huge. The Myriad Spirit Star was located in the center of the Qingtian galaxy. It was the largest trading planet in the Qingtian galaxy. This planet didn't belong to a single faction. Countless factions, large and small, traded there. It was extremely prosperous. The Qingtian 13 sects recruitment test had always been held on the Myriad Spirit Star. The location was the largest city on the Myriad Spirit Star, the Myriad Spirit City. After Lu Ming and the others arrived at the Myriad Spirit City, they found an inn to stay in. As time passed, more and more people came to the Myriad Spirit City. On the streets, young geniuses could be seen in groups of 3 to 5. Some of their auras were extremely terrifying. At first glance, one could tell that they were extremely powerful geniuses. There were hundreds of galaxies in the Qin heavenly star field. The chaotic astral river was the weakest, the one that no one paid attention to. Any other star river was more prosperous and powerful than the chaotic star river. The number of geniuses in the chaotic star river was also far from what the chaotic star river could compare with. In the chaotic galaxy, only 500 people passed the test and could participate in the test. However, in the other galaxies, even the worst ones had thousands of people who could participate in the test. Some even had tens of thousands of people. Chapter 26-29. Every 1,000 years, the Qingtian 13 sects would recruit disciples. It was a grand event in the Qingtian star zone, and it was also a day for many geniuses to soar. Soon there were only 3 days left before the assessment. On this day the sound of bells rang throughout Wanling City. Let's go. It is the Qingtian 13 sect summons. They should be announcing the rules of the assessment. The ancestor of technique said. He led Lu Ming and the rest in the direction of the sound of the bells. In the middle of Wanling City, there was a vast open space. This place used to be a huge market. However, during this period of time, the market had been removed and it was used for the assessment. This open space was so big that it could accommodate hundreds of millions of people at the same time without any problems. Soon the open space was filled with people. Not only were there young geniuses who wanted to take part in the assessment, but there were also many people who wanted to watch the fun. In fact, there were more people who wanted to watch the fun than those who wanted to take part in the assessment. Swoosh, swoosh. At that moment, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky and the place quietened down. There are only 3 days left before the assessment. Now I will explain the details of the assessment and the rules. A majestic man in the sky spoke. The place was silent. Everyone listened quietly, afraid that they would miss any details. All of you should have the identity jade token to take part in the assessment. The middle-aged man took out a jade token. It was almost the same as the one that Lu Ming and the rest had. However, the picture on it was different. 3 days later, when the assessment time is up, as long as you are in Wanling City, no matter where you are, this jade token will bring you to a virtual space. We call it the dream space. In the dreamland space, everything is virtual. Only your spiritual consciousness can enter the dreamland space. Furthermore, in the dreamland space, your cultivation will be suppressed to level 1 empty God realm. If you are already at rank 1 empty God realm, it will not change. If you are not at rank 1 empty God realm, it will not change either. However, although your cultivation is suppressed to level 1 empty God realm, the attributes of your divine force will not change. If you have king grade divine force, it will still be king grade divine force. If you have saint grade divine force, it will still be saint grade divine force. The test is divided into 2 rounds. In the first round, the dreamscape space will be divided into 20 regions. All participants will be evenly divided into 20 regions to fight. However, there is one thing that you can rest assured about. Before you enter the 20 regions to fight, you will enter a special region. There are many incomplete divine skills there. Even if you are a level 1 empty God realm martial artist, you will still be able to cultivate these incomplete divine skills and unleash their power. From now on, you will have 1 year to comprehend the incomplete divine skills. Then you will enter the 20 regions and fight to determine your ranking. This time, we have calculated that there will be more than 1 million participants in the entire Qingtian star field and hundreds of galaxies. At that time, there will be 50,000 participants in each region. 50,000 people will fight against each other. The rule is that every time you kill someone you will gain 1 point. At the same time, you will take half of the points from your opponent. Everyone has 2 lives, which means that you will have 2 chances. In the end, the top 100 participants in each region will be able to enter the next round. Those who are not in the top 100 will be eliminated. The middle-aged man explained all the rules in one breath. After he finished, he stopped to allow the participants to digest the information. I see. Lu Ming's heart jumped as he concluded. The test this time was simple. It was divided into 2 rounds. There were about 1 million participants. The identity jade token would bring them into the dream space. In the dream space, even if they were killed, they would not really die. However, their cultivation would be suppressed to rank 1 empty God realm. Of course, those who were below rank 1 empty God realm like Lu Ming would have to keep their identity jade token. Then they would be given a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill. After that, the 1 million participants would enter the 20 regions. In each region there would be 50,000 participants. The 50,000 participants would fight against each other to gain points. Only the top 100 participants would be able to enter the next round. Moreover, each participant would have 2 chances. This was for the sake of fairness. This was to prevent the geniuses from encountering powerful opponents at the beginning. If they were killed, it would be a pity. There are more than 1 million participants. Lu Ming was shocked. After a while, when the participants had digested the information, the middle-aged man continued to speak. Those who are eliminated in the first round may have a chance to enter the Qingtian 13 sects. As long as you perform well and gain more points, you will have a chance to be selected by the 13 sects. Of course, the better your performance, the more you will be valued. Alright, let's talk about it here. The specific rules will be displayed on your jade tokens later. Take a good look at them. Do you have any questions? After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he scanned the crowd. Senior, I have a question. At this moment, a young man spoke. The middle-aged man said, Senior, why did you suppress your cultivation to level 1 empty God realm? If I cultivate to level 6 empty God realm, won't I be unable to unleash my full potential? The young man asked. Level 6 empty God realm? Do you think that you are a genius? The middle-aged man asked. The young man did not speak, but his expression showed that he agreed. Cultivation will never represent talent. I can tell you that in the Qingtian 13 sects, there are a lot of people who have cultivated to level 6 empty God realm within 10,000 years. There are even many true body realm cultivators who have cultivated for less than 10,000 years. Some of them have even reached the heavenly God realm. You are only at level 9 empty God realm. Will the Qingtian 13 sects lack a level 6 empty God realm cultivator? As long as the Qingtian 13 sects give an order, how many level 6 empty gods can the Qingtian star field gather? The middle-aged man's questions left the young man tongue-tied, unable to say a word. There are many ways to raise one's cultivation. There are some treasures, some fortuitous encounters, and some time to cultivate. Therefore, cultivation is useless to the Qingtian 13 sects. The Qingtian 13 sects recruit disciples based on talent and potential. There are many ways to raise one's cultivation. Suppressing your cultivation to level 1 empty God realm and giving you a year's time is to test your talent and comprehension. Only those with high comprehension can join the Qin 13 sects. Do you understand? The middle-aged man said. The young man's face turned red and he did not speak. He came from a big force and had consumed many treasures to reach his current cultivation. However, in the Qin 13 sects, how could they lack treasures? Chapter 26:30. Many people were deep in thought. Indeed, one's talent and comprehension could only be seen through such a test. In the martial god realm, talent and comprehension were the most important. That was why they had retained their divine power levels and given them a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skills before engaging in battle. In this way, those with high levels of divine skills and high comprehension would be able to stand out. Mastering high-grade divine skills was talent. However, comprehension was also very important. This was because one's divine skills were not innate and could be cultivated. Some terrifying and exquisite divine skills could allow one to cultivate royal-grade divine skills, sacred-grade divine skills, and even divine-grade divine skills. The Qin 13 sects all had such terrifying divine skills. As long as one cultivated to an extremely high level, one could cultivate high-grade divine skills. It was said that the divine skills of the three overlords could cultivate divine-grade divine skills to the highest level. Therefore, if a person's divine skills were not high but his comprehension was amazing, his future would be limitless. Of course, some people did not cultivate these divine skills and naturally cultivated high-grade divine skills. There were many people. For example, Lu Ming, Tong Shi, and the others were like this. The disciples the Qin Heavenly 13 sects wanted to recruit were those with high levels of God force and those with exceptional comprehension abilities. Also, let me tell you. Some of you came from some big forces and may have already cultivated some incomplete divine skills. However, in the dreamland space, you are not allowed to use the incomplete divine skills that you have cultivated. You can only use the incomplete divine skills that you have comprehended in the dreamland space. If you violate this rule, you will be eliminated and the Qin 13 sects will never recruit you. Do you understand? The middle-aged man's voice echoed throughout the square. Understood. Many people replied loudly. Good, that's all for now. I wish you all good luck. After saying this, the middle-aged man and the others turned and left. After the middle-aged man and the others left, the others in the square also slowly dispersed. Lu Ming and the others also returned to their residence. Not long after they returned to their residence, a large piece of information appeared on the jade token. It was all about the test and some rules. Lu Ming and the others carefully read through it again and then made preparations. There were still 3 days before the examination would begin. Not only them but everyone else was also actively preparing for it. In a huge courtyard there was a group of people. These people were all tall and sturdy, and their bodies looked as if they were made of metal. These people were a branch of the Vajra race, one of the most terrifying races in the primitive universe. The Vajra clan was a very powerful clan in the primitive universe. Among the countless clans in the primitive universe, it was ranked in the top 10,000. In the primitive universe, there was a list of 10,000 races that listed the 10,000 strongest races in the primitive universe. The Vajra race was one of them. However, the Vajra clan's main branch wasn't located in the Qin Heavenly Starfield. The Qin Heavenly Starfield was just a branch of the Vajra clan. At this moment, dozens of Vajra tribe members were surrounding a young Vajra tribe member. This young man from the Vajra clan was even more burly. He was 3 meters tall. Jin Xing, you are a rare genius of my Vajra race's Qin Tian branch. This time, you must get into the top 3 in the Qin Tian 13 sects assessment and join one of the 3 hegemonic powers. An elderly member of the Vajra race instructed. Don't worry, Patriarch. It's only the top 3. I have full confidence. Jin Xing said with a confident smile. On a mountain in Wanling City, this place was bought by a group of Tiger Men. The Tiger Men were just a small clan in the primitive universe. They were far from being in the top 10,000. However, in the Qin Tian star field, the strength of the Tiger Men was not to be underestimated. At the peak of the mountain, a young Tiger Man let out a long roar. The wind and clouds surged and his aura was wild. This time the top 3. No, I want to fight for the first place. The young Tigerman's eyes were like lightning, filled with a domineering aura. In the north of Wanling City there was a lake. The lake wasn't big but it was very clean. It was like a mirror and one could see the fish in the lake clearly. On the shore of the lake there was a simple pavilion. At this moment, there were 2 figures in the pavilion, looking at the calm surface of the lake. One of them was a white-haired old man in a white robe, looking like an immortal. The other person was a young man in his 20s. This young man was handsome. He was also in a white robe, looking like an elegant young master. Are you confident in the assessment of the Qin Tian 13 sects? The old man asked the young man. The young man's name was Linghu Yi. According to the rules this time, I have full confidence that the first place will be mine, Linghu Yi said. His face was calm, without the slightest trace of arrogance. It was as if he was just stating a fact. Good. With your talent, as long as you give it your all, the first place will be yours. Moreover, you will definitely be able to enter the 3 overlord forces and even be heavily nurtured. The white-haired old man stroked his beard and looked at Linghu Yi with satisfaction. If he didn't enter the dreamland space and fought outside, Linghu Yi might not have such a big advantage. However, the rules this time would give him a year to comprehend and cultivate the incomplete divine skill. This was Linghu Ye's biggest advantage. Linghu Ye's comprehension was the strongest the old man had ever seen. Although the grade of Linghu Ye's divine power wasn't high, that was because he lacked opportunities and divine skills. However, Linghu Ye's terrifying comprehension could completely make up for it. The old man was full of expectations. As long as Linghu Yi joined the 3 overlord forces, he would be heavily nurtured and cultivate divine skills. Linghu Yi would definitely be able to break through to a terrifying realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this day, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Xier, and Dandan gathered in a room and sat cross-legged in a circle. They didn't need to go to a specific location to participate in the assessment. As long as they were in Wanling City, the Jade Token would bring them into the dreamland space. Bus. At this time, the Jade Tokens in Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's hands vibrated slightly, emitting a bright light that floated above their heads. Then, a beam of light fell from the Jade Tokens and enveloped them. Then, Lu Ming and the others felt their minds and souls being sucked into the Jade Tokens. Everything before them was pitch black. Almost an instant later, their eyes lit up and they opened them. As soon as they opened their eyes, they found that they were on a huge platform, and in front of the platform was a field of stone tablets. Countless stone steels stood tall on the vast land. Each tablet was 100 meters tall, and there were some words and pictures engraved on each tablet. There were too many tablets. At a glance, there was no end to them. No one knew how many tablets there were. Is this the incomplete divine skill on the stone tablet? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. They were going to stay here for a year to comprehend and cultivate the incomplete divine skills. Chapter 26:31. At this moment, Lu Ming discovered that a badge had appeared in front of their chests. On the badge was a picture of a ruin made of jade. This was their symbol. Those who entered from different galaxies all had a badge with a different picture on their chests. My cultivation has not changed at all. Following that, Lu Ming carefully sensed his body and discovered that his cultivation had not changed at all. He was still a 7-star heavenly emperor and his sovereign power was surging. Of course, it was impossible for them to bring their weapons, storage rings and so on. In fact, they were not allowed to bring weapons in this competition. If they wanted to use weapons, they had to condense divine power and rely entirely on their own abilities. Are your cultivations being suppressed? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Xier and Dandan. It has been suppressed to level 1 empty god realm, but our divine power level has not changed. Xian Yanqing said. Me too. Tong Xier also nodded. Mine has not changed. Dandan said. His cultivation had originally been at level 1 empty god realm, so it had not changed. Lu Ming nodded. It was indeed the same as what the rules said. At this moment, on the platform, many figures flashed and rushed toward those stone tablets. Time was limited. They only had a year's time. A year's time was too short to comprehend an incomplete divine skill. They had to make the best use of their time to find an incomplete divine skill that was suitable for them and seize the time to cultivate. Every moment they cultivated, they might be able to reach a higher level. At that time, when they fought with others, they would be able to gain an advantage. Millions of people rushed into the vast stone tablets to find a divine skill that was suitable for them. Lu Ming and the rest also rushed down the platform and toward the stone tablets. Soon they came under the first huge stone tablet. At this moment, under this stone tablet, there were already 2 youths carefully looking at it. On the stone tablet, there were lines of words and pictures engraved. This was a kind of palm technique that leaned towards gentleness. Lu Ming and the rest glanced at it and directly passed it. It was not suitable. They continued to walk forward. As they walked, they attracted the attention of many people. The main reason was because the two sisters, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan, were simply too beautiful when they walked together. The two of them looked exactly the same. It was hard for them not to attract the attention of others. What two beautiful women, and they look exactly the same. Look at their badges, they are from the Chaotic Star River. I didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful woman in the Chaotic Star River. Who is that person? He actually walked together with such a beautiful woman. Around them, many people were discussing animatedly as they looked at Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan with fervent eyes. Tong Shi-er could also be considered a stunning beauty. However, she paled in comparison to Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. Ever since Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan had broken through to the martial god realm, their temperaments had become more and more extraordinary. Even people who were similar in appearance would be inferior to them. Many people looked at Lu Ming with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Although Dandan was beside Lu Ming, Dandan looked like a 16 or 17-year-old boy and was wearing a Taoist robe. Naturally, he was ignored by others. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan looked indifferent. They ignored the gazes of others and focused on finding suitable divine skills. What two beautiful women! Not far away, more than a dozen burly figures looked at Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan with fervent eyes. These dozen or so people were all elites of the Tiger clan. The Tiger tribe did not have the appearance of a tiger. That was not the case. They looked very similar to humans, but there were stripes on their faces. They were tiger stripes. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall and had thick hair all over their bodies. How can we miss such beauties? Let's go and get to know them. One of the Tiger tribe youths with golden hair smiled and walked toward Lu Ming and the others. The other Tiger tribe youths laughed and followed him. In a flash, the Tiger tribe youths stood in front of Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others also stopped. The Tiger tribe youths looked at Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, and Tong Shi-er without any scruples. From the Chaotic Galaxy? I didn't expect there to be such beauties in the Chaotic Galaxy. We are the elites of the Tiger tribe. My name is Hu Mao. Beauty, how about we be friends? The golden-haired youth from the Tiger Man race revealed a confident smile. Lu Ming and Dandan almost laughed out loud. Hu Mao? This name was quite profound. However, Xian Yinjuan didn't want to laugh. She looked cold and scolded, "Get lost. Oh, you're quite hot-tempered." However, the Tiger tribe likes hot-tempered people the most. Brothers, don't you agree? Hu Mao didn't take it seriously and teased. Yes, the hotter the better. It's fun to play with. Ha ha ha. The other Tiger tribe youths laughed. On the side, the others looked over as if they were watching a show. I've already told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me? Are you deaf or what? Get lost immediately. At this time, Lu Ming scolded. The smile on the Tiger tribe youth's face suddenly disappeared. His eyes flashed coldly. Boy, what did you say? How dare a trash from the Chaotic Galaxy talk to us like that? Are you tired of living? I'll give you 3 seconds to get lost. Get as far away as you can. What right do you have to stand next to two beauties? The Tiger tribe youths roared, their bodies flashing with cold killing intent. 3, 2, 1. Lu Ming said disdainfully, counting the time for the other party. After 3 seconds, Lu Ming stepped forward, pulled Xian Yinqing's little hand and said disdainfully, "A group of idiots." Provocation, disdain, ridicule. This was blatant ridicule. The Tiger tribe youths burst out with killing intent. Boy, immediately kneel down and admit your mistake. Slap yourself 100 times. Otherwise, I'll let you die without a burial place. Hu Mao was furious, revealing a mouthful of jagged fangs. If you have the ability, do it. Lu Ming said disdainfully. Hu Mao and the other Tiger tribe youths all widened their eyes and glared at Lu Ming. However, they didn't dare to make a move. The assessment hadn't started yet. In this year's process of comprehending and cultivating the incomplete divine skill, no one was allowed to make a move. Whoever made a move would lose the qualification. If not, Hu Mao and the others would have already made a move and torn Lu Ming into pieces. Boy, you have guts. Just you wait, in the assessment 1 year later, don't meet my Tiger tribe people. Otherwise you will die miserably. Hu Mao said coldly and then said to the other Tiger tribe members, "Brothers, go and inform the other Tiger tribe members. In the future assessment, if you meet this person, kill him without mercy." Okay, there are so many Tiger tribe members, he's dead. He will die miserably. The other Tiger tribe members shouted. Chapter 2632. A bunch of fools. Xiaoqing, let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi-er, and Dandan along with him. They passed by the tiger tribe and headed towards the depths of the stone monument forest. The youths from the tiger tribe were so angry that their lungs almost exploded. They gritted their teeth. This kid is too impulsive. He actually dared to offend the tiger tribe's prodigies. I guess he's a top genius in the chaotic astral river. He's used to being arrogant. But in the chaotic astral river, he's nothing in the Qintian starfield. That's right. The tiger tribe is a big tribe in the Qintian starfield. There are hundreds of galaxies in the Qintian starfield, and the tiger tribe occupies one of them. They're extremely powerful. I heard that there are thousands of tiger tribe's prodigies participating in the assessment of the 13 sects. That's right, there are indeed a few thousand of them. Even if they are evenly divided into 20 regions, the number of tiger tribe members in each region will definitely not be small. Moreover, I have also heard that in this generation of tiger tribe, there is a peerless genius who possesses divine power. That brat will die miserably. It's unwise to show off in front of a beauty. In the surroundings, the people who saw this scene began to discuss spiritedly. These discussions naturally reached Lu Ming's ears. However, Lu Ming only smiled faintly and didn't care. When they were divided into 20 regions, he would be more than happy if the tiger tribe came looking for trouble with him. Why wouldn't he be happy if they gave him points? Lu Ming and the rest wandered around the stone monuments, looking at them one by one. Not long after, Xian Yinjuan stopped in front of a stone monument. This stone monument was engraved with a sword technique. Just by looking at it, it seemed as if there was a burst of holy sword light bursting out. It's not a bad sword technique. I'll choose this one, Xian Yinjuan said. Then he stood in front of the monument and looked at it seriously. Lu Ming and the rest continued to search. This forest of stone monuments was very large and contained a large number of incomplete divine skills. Incomplete offensive divine skill, incomplete defensive divine skill, incomplete agility divine skill. It had everything. After more than a day, Dandan and Tong Shi-er found suitable incomplete divine skills and started to cultivate them. I'll cultivate this sword technique. Xian Yanqing walked to a stone monument. This stone tablet also recorded a type of sword technique. The sword technique was swift and fierce, and its demonic aura soared into the sky. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were both good at swordsmanship. Both of them chose a sword technique of the sword divine skill. Lu Ming was left alone. Lu Ming continued to wander around. Lu Ming discovered that most of the people chose the incomplete attack type divine skills. That's right. Even if it's an incomplete divine skill, the difficulty of cultivating it must be extremely shocking. They only had a year's time. Naturally, they would choose to cultivate offensive divine skills to increase their offensive power so that they could kill their opponents as soon as possible and gain points in the assessment a year later. I'll take this one. Lu Ming came to a stone monument. This stone monument recorded an incomplete divine spear skill. There was no one under the stone monument. Lu Ming chose this one. Lu Ming looked at it carefully. This spear skill did not have a name. In fact, the incomplete divine skills here did not have a name. They were all evolved from complete divine skills by some experts of the Qintian 13 sects. For experts above the peak of the empty god realm, it did not have any practical use. Experts of that level could already cultivate complete divine skills. However, for experts below the peak of the empty god realm, it was quite useful. What an exquisite divine skill. After comprehending it for a while, Lu Ming felt a little emotional. Divine skills were various exquisite uses of divine power. It was very powerful and exquisite. It was much more difficult to comprehend than the various super skills in the heaven realm. There were a total of 7 levels to this incomplete divine skill. However, it was very difficult to cultivate the first level. Lu Ming threw away all distracting thoughts and focused on comprehending it. He comprehended it for a month. After a month, Lu Ming still did not enter the divine skill. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming used his sovereign power to form a long spear. The long spear vibrated at a strange frequency. Sometimes it would whip out, sometimes it would stab forward. Rays of spear light flickered. However, halfway through his cultivation, Lu Ming stopped. Not right, still not right. Once this spear skill is successfully cultivated, one spear will be able to release layers of power. The power will stack up and the power will be boundless. Moreover, there are many different variations. However, I still can't find that feeling. The divine power circulation is wrong. Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind as he summarized the gains that he had made during his cultivation. Half a day later, Lu Ming started to comprehend it again. The difficulty of cultivating an incomplete divine skill was too high. Even with Lu Ming's talent, it was difficult to comprehend it. One could imagine how difficult it would be for others. Time passed quickly and another month passed. Buzz. Lu Ming's long spear swept out. Terrifying rumbling sounds burst out in the air. After 3 rumbling sounds, the rumbling sounds disappeared. Success. I finally reached the first layer. Lu Ming was overjoyed. After 2 months of bitter cultivation, Lu Ming had finally cultivated this incomplete divine skill to the first layer. At the first layer, one spear strike would instantly release 3 layers of power. It was extremely powerful. At the same time, there were 3 variations that were unpredictable and impossible to guard against. If one cultivated it to the second layer, one spear strike would release 5 layers of power and have 5 variations. The higher one cultivated it, the more powerful it would be. Continue. Lu Ming continued to comprehend. After cultivating it to the first layer, the difficulty of cultivating it became even greater. For any divine skill, the further one progressed, the more difficult it would be. If the first layer was already so difficult, one could imagine how difficult it would be later. Lu Ming cultivated wholeheartedly and did not care about outside matters. Half a year later, Lu Ming finally broke through to the second layer of this divine spear art. At this point, Lu Ming and the rest had been here for 8 months. There were still 4 months before the assessment began. 4 months passed in the blink of an eye. 1 year's time was up. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's divine spear art was still stuck at the second layer and had not reached the third layer. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, there was a constant buzzing sound in this world. In the sky, runes appeared one after another, dazzling and colorful. It's about to begin. It's finally about to begin. Many people were whispering. Some were nervous, but some were looking forward to it. Suddenly, pillars of light appeared in the sky and shrouded everyone. Then everyone followed the pillars of light and flew into the sky, disappearing. At the next moment, Lu Ming discovered that he had appeared in a room. Is this the assessment area? Lu Ming muttered. The assessment this time was divided into 20 areas. More than 1 million people would enter 20 different areas to fight. As for which area they would enter, it was completely random. Chapter 2633. At that moment, in Wanling City, the market where the announcement had been made a year ago was filled with people. Densely packed, countless people had gathered here. At that moment, 20 huge screens appeared in the sky above the empty space. Names were displayed on these screens. There were more than 50,000 names on each screen. They were all the names of the people who had taken the test. Behind each name, there was a galaxy corresponding to that name. For example, Lu Ming's name was in the 20th region. Behind his name were the words Chaotic Galaxy. Xian Yinqing was in the 1st region. Xian Yinjuan was in the 3rd region. Tong Shi was in the 10th region. Dandan was in the 18th region. Quick, find out which region Kong Long is in. Fenger and Xiao are in that region. In the crowd, Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others began to search. With their eyesight, they could see thousands of lines with a single glance. Their speed was astonishing. In a short while they found the regions where Kong Long, Situ Xiao, Situ Feng and the others were. This time, the chaotic galaxy had gathered thousands of people under the leadership of the Cloud Peak Pavilion's Pavilion Master. They were all there to watch and gathered together. The ancestor of techniques was among them. He was not far away from Kong Long and the others. They were not the only ones. People from other galaxies had also found the participants from their respective factions. Now the names were in a mess and appeared randomly. However, once the battle began, the names would be arranged according to the points. The one with the highest points would be ranked first. The battle would end after 3 months. The top 100 Sky Prides in each region would win. The rest would be eliminated. Only the points were counted. It did not matter if one was killed. As long as one had enough points and was ranked in the top 100, one could advance even if one was killed. It's starting. Wuxia has points in the 6th region. That's fast. He already has 3 points. Someone shouted. In the beginning, each person only had 1 point. 1 point would be awarded for each person killed. In other words, Wuxia had already killed 3 people in such a short time. In the other regions, Sage Jean is not slow either. The battle has begun. Many people have points. The names on the 20 screens were flickering non-stop. Some names directly appeared in the first, second, or even the front. Behind the name, the corresponding points would appear. More than 1,000,000 names kept flashing. It was only because everyone present was an expert that they could see it clearly. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been dazzled at first glance. The 20th zone. Lu Ming opened the door and walked out. Am I in a city? Lu Ming guessed that he was in a courtyard. He could see other tall buildings in other places. Wait, you can't fly in this area. Lu Ming was just about to soar into the air to observe the situation when he suddenly felt that his body was as heavy as a mountain. He couldn't fly at all. Flying was prohibited in this area. Boom. Suddenly, a violent roar came from a tall building not far away. The building roared and the energy was rampant. The walls exploded. Lu Ming saw two figures fighting fiercely. Their battle prowess was on par with each other, and it was hard to tell who would emerge victorious in the fierce battle. Bang. At this moment, the door of the courtyard Lu Ming was in was blasted open. Broken wood flew everywhere, and a tall and burly figure walked in. This person glanced at the badge on Lu Ming's chest and sneered ferociously. A piece of trash from the chaotic galaxy happens to be the first person I kill and my first point. Bang. Bang. The man stepped out and condensed a saber with his divine power. He slashed the saber violently toward Lu Ming. This was an incomplete divine skill that he cultivated. The saber light was extremely fast and filled with a violent aura. Lu Ming's expression was calm. He formed a long spear with his divine power and thrust it forward. Whoosh! This spear was as fast as lightning. In an instant, 5 changes occurred. The other party wanted to block, but he didn't know how to do so. Puchi. Lu Ming's long spear pierced through the other party's forehead and came out. You. The other party's eyes were wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. Originally, he wanted to kill Lu Ming and let Lu Ming become his first point. He didn't expect to die at the hands of Lu Ming in one move. How could a person from the chaotic galaxy be so strong? Sorry, what you said is exactly what I wanted to say. It's your honor to be able to contribute to my first point. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then his long spear shook and the other party's body was torn apart, turning into energy and dissipating. Of course, the rules this time said that there were 2 chances. The other party could revive in another place and continue to fight. If he died the second time, there would be no more chances. The points would be the same as the points. After killing one person, the badge on Lu Ming's chest suddenly glowed faintly. A message appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, Zone 20 from the chaotic galaxy. Current points, 1 rank, 28560. So, this badge has this use. Lu Ming smiled. In this way he would know his ranking at all times. 3 months is more than enough. Lu Ming smiled and walked out of the courtyard. Walking out of the courtyard there was a wide street. On both sides of the street there were all kinds of buildings. At this moment the battle between the 2 people had already ended. One of them was killed but the other one was also injured. He didn't dare to stay and secretly escaped. Swish. Lu Ming's figure moved and rushed to a house. Then he ran on the house. It was very dangerous to do so as it would be easy to be targeted by others. However, Lu Ming did it on purpose. Instead of finding those people one by one, it was better to let others find him. Sure enough, someone made a move. In one of the houses, a figure, like an arrow leaving the bow, pounced on Lu Ming. At the same time, a sharp sword light pierced towards Lu Ming's forehead. Good. Lu Ming backhanded his spear. Clang. The long spear hit the other party's sword light. The other party's body shook violently and he was thrown back. Blood spurted from his mouth and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He could clearly feel that Lu Ming was only a transformation void martial realm martial artist and had not reached the empty god realm. Although his cultivation was suppressed here, he was still a level 1 empty god realm martial artist. However, he was thrown back by Lu Ming and was severely injured. Kill? Lu Ming stomped his feet and his body flew out. At the same time, a sharp spear light pierced through the void and killed the other party in the air. It was an easy kill. Lu Ming's expression didn't change. The other party only had ordinary divine power. Although Lu Ming's cultivation was lower than the other party's cultivation was suppressed to level 1 empty god realm. It was easy for him to kill the other party. This was under the premise that the battle formula couldn't be used here. If the battle formula could be used, Lu Ming's strength would be even more shocking. Chapter 2634. Here he could only use his own divine power and the incomplete divine skills that he had comprehended before. Of course, there was also his own combat skills and combat awareness. Even the battle formula could not be used. Outside, the battle formula played an important role in Lu Ming's ability to cross so many realms to kill his enemies. Even if he did not trigger the doubling of his combat ability would be greatly enhanced when he cast the Battle Word Sutra. Now that the battle formula could not be used, Lu Ming's combat strength would be greatly affected. However, Lu Ming had the power of Sovereign, so Lu Ming was not afraid of any opponents. After killing his opponent, Lu Ming's points increased by 1 point, becoming 2 points. His ranking also rose by a few thousand, rushing to 24897. This was just the beginning. Every point could pull many ranks apart because many people only gained 1 point by killing one person. Later on, when everyone's points increased, they would gain a few points, and the ranking would rise very slowly. Lu Ming continued to run on the roof, attracting people's attention. To be honest, Lu Ming's cultivation and the Chaotic Galaxy badge could really make people lower their guard. When others saw that Lu Ming came from the Chaotic Galaxy, and that he had the cultivation of the Transformation Void Martial Realm, they immediately saw him as a free point. How could they hold themselves back and attack him? During this period, there was even a genius with King-grade divine power who attacked Lu Ming, but he was killed one by Lu Ming, turning into Lu Ming's points. In terms of divine power, these people were not as good as Lu Ming. Moreover, their incomplete divine skills were only at the first level, while Lu Ming's incomplete divine skills had been cultivated to the second level. How could they be a match for Lu Ming? Very soon, Lu Ming's points increased to 23 points. His ranking also soared to more than 2,600th place. He was getting closer and closer to the top 100. Wanling City. So fast. In the 20th region, Lu Ming's progress is so fast. It's really amazing. He's already in the top 2,000. How long has it been? If he keeps rising like this, he'll have a chance to reach the top 100 in the 20th region. I remember that this Lu Ming should be a member of the Righteous Army. Many people from the Chaotic Galaxy cried out in surprise. Then, many of them looked at the Ancestor of Techniques with envy. Even the Yunfeng Pavilion Master looked at Fang Zhu in surprise. However, the Ancestor of Techniques' expression was calm. In his heart, Lu Ming was definitely going to join the Qingtian 13 sects. If a person with the power of a sovereign couldn't join, then who could? This is just the beginning. Don't be happy too early. That's right. This competition will last for 3 months. If someone were to be killed, their points would be reduced by half. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan were somewhat displeased as they spoke coldly. The Ancestor of Technique softly smiled and ignored him. In Zone 20, Lu Ming's score was still increasing. Moreover, the more points he gained from killing others, the more points he would gain. This was because some people already had 3 to 4 points, 5 to 6 points. Not only would he gain the points of killing another person, but he would also gain half of the opponent's points. Lu Ming's points continued to increase. 28 points. 32 points. 50 points. 2 days later, Lu Ming's points soared to 88 points. And his ranking shot up to 86th in one go. In Zone 20, 86. With this ranking he would be able to advance. Of course, that was only after the 3-month deadline. Outside, Kang Ji and Situ Haonan's expressions were ugly. One had to know that Situ Feng's current ranking wasn't even in the top 100. Not bad, not bad. The Yunfeng Pavilion Master's face was full of smiles. Every time someone was selected by the Qingtian 13 sects, she would be rewarded handsomely. Originally, she was quite confident that at least 50 people would be selected to join the Qingtian 13 sects. However, after coming to the Wanling City, she changed her mind. The entire Qingtian star field had more than 1 million geniuses, while the Chaotic Galaxy only had 500 people. The difference was too big. She finally understood why the Qingtian 13 sects didn't open their recruitment to the Chaotic Galaxy in the past. It was because there was no need to. However, after Lu Ming accumulated 88 points, he stopped and didn't continue to hunt others. This was because he felt that the incomplete divine skill he cultivated was about to break through. It's still early, I should find a place to break through first. It won't be too late to hunt later. Lu Ming thought. Sure enough, the speed of cultivating a divine skill was faster after going through battles. Previously, Lu Ming's comprehension of the incomplete divine skill was still some distance away from the 3rd stage. However, after a few days of fighting, he felt that he wasn't far from breaking through. As long as he found a place to comprehend it, he would be able to break through. Sharpening a knife wouldn't delay the work of cutting wood. As long as his incomplete divine skill broke through to the third stage, his strength would increase greatly, and he would be able to kill his opponents faster. Lu Ming looked around and then rushed toward a small alley. The city Lu Ming was in was huge. Although Lu Ming had walked around a large area in the past few days, he was still only active in a small area of the city. After taking a detour through a few small alleys, Lu Ming came to a secluded courtyard. He entered the courtyard and closed the door. Lu Ming condensed a long spear with the power of a master and began to cultivate. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The long spear was constantly waved and stabbed. Lu Ming carefully explored and studied it. His comprehension of this spear art was getting deeper and deeper. Fighting. Not only was there fierce fighting in the 20th region where Lu Ming was, but other regions were also filled with fighting. Some people were directly teleported out after being killed twice. In the sky above Wanling City, the rankings on the 20 screens were constantly changing and flashing. However, gradually, a few names became more and more conspicuous and even firmly occupied the first place in different regions. For example, Wuxia from the Tiger Men tribe, Jin Sheng from the Vajra tribe, Yang Chong, Ling Huyi. These few names had occupied the first place in their respective regions not long after the competition had started. Wuxia is a genius from the Tiger Men tribe that appears once in 100,000 years. It is said that once he breaks through to the martial god realm, he will be able to control divine-grade divine power and is extremely powerful. This time he will most likely be in the top 3. Jin Sheng from the Vajra tribe is not bad either. He also controls divine-grade divine power. Yang Chong is also a genius who controls divine-grade divine power. Divine-grade divine power, he is a peerless genius. Many people were discussing and exclaiming. In the Qintian star field, most of the living beings who had broken through to the martial god realm could only control ordinary divine power. Only a small number of people could control royal-grade divine power. These people were already considered good geniuses. As for palm force and divine-grade divine power, they were extremely rare. There were not many of them in the entire Qintian star field. Although it was possible to raise one's godly power level through certain godly techniques, those godly techniques were extremely rare, and the difficulty of cultivating them was also extremely high. Without exceptional comprehension and talent, it would be difficult to achieve anything. Chapter 2635. One had to know that in the Qin Heavenly 13 sects, there were divine arts that could allow one to cultivate saint-grade or even divine-grade god force. However, over the years only a small number of people were able to do so. What is the background of that Ling Huyi? Never heard of it before. Indeed, I've never heard of it either. Maybe he's a new genius. However, he's definitely not on the same level as Jin Sheng, Wuxia, and Yang Chong. Of course, everyone looked at the rankings on the screen as they discussed. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in seclusion to cultivate the incomplete divine skill for 1.5 months. Half of the 3 months had passed. For 1.5 months, Lu Ming had been wholeheartedly comprehending the incomplete divine skill and did not go out to hunt. Naturally, his ranking had plummeted. Aha, that Lu Ming won't make it. His score hasn't moved for 1.5 months, and his ranking has dropped to around 5,300. I knew it. He definitely won't make it into the top 100. That's right. He was just lucky before. He probably met some weaklings and got some points. As time passes, the weaklings will be eliminated and the ones left will be the strong. He must be looking for an opportunity to hide now, not daring to make a move. Weaklings will always be weaklings. They definitely won't be able to enter the top 100. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan looked at the ancestor of technique and mocked him. Look, Feng Er has entered the top 100. His ranking is still rising, 9281. Suddenly Situ Haonan's eyes lit up. That was because Situ Feng's ranking in the 9th region had suddenly skyrocketed. Originally, Situ Feng was ranked outside the top 100, but he suddenly soared all the way to the 72nd place before stopping. Haha, I knew that with Feng Er's talent he would definitely be able to enter the top 100. Sure enough, he must have killed an expert just now and obtained a large number of points. Situ Haonan laughed excitedly. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master nodded in agreement. Situ Feng had far surpassed the others in the tower test, so she had high hopes for him. Look, Xian Yinqing is also in the top 100. And Xian Yinjuan is also in the top 100. Suddenly, an old man beside the Cloud Peak Pavilion's Pavilion Master shouted. Everyone looked over and saw that Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan had indeed entered the top 100. The galaxy behind their names was naturally the chaotic galaxy. Which force are these two from? Previously, he had kept a low profile, but he actually managed to rush into the top 100. Some people were puzzled. I remember that they were two peerless beauties, sisters. I think they came from the righteous army. From the Jingtian army? Instantly, many people in the chaotic galaxy looked at the ancestor of techniques. That's right, they're from the righteous army. The ancestor of technique nodded. Fa Ming, I didn't expect your righteous army to give birth to so many peak geniuses. I've never heard you mention this before. Someone who knew the ancestor of techniques exclaimed. It's just a few geniuses. There's no need to make such a big fuss. As he spoke, he glanced at Situ Haonan. Wasn't it just a genius? There was no need to shout so loudly. The mockery in his words was self-evident. Situ Haonan's expression was a little ugly. He harumphed coldly and said, "Humph, it's still early. Don't disappear in a few days like that Lu Ming. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed." The ancestor of techniques smiled faintly. He was full of confidence in Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanjuan. I hope she can enter the top 100. The ancestor of techniques sighed in his heart. Comparatively speaking, he was more worried about Tong Shi. He looked at the area where Tong Shi was. At this moment, Tong Shi's ranking was below 300 in that area. In the courtyard where Lu Ming was, whoosh, 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 the spear light pierced through the air, and the sound of the long spear vibrating could be heard. Lu Ming's entire body seemed to have become one with the spear light. In the courtyard, the spear light rampaged for a while before it stopped. The spear light retracted, and Lu Ming stood in the courtyard with a faint smile on his face. After more than a month of cultivation, the incomplete divine skill had finally reached the 3rd level, and its power had greatly increased. Now, Lu Ming's spear strike contained 7 different types of power at the same time. At the same time, it contained 7 different types of changes. There's still more than a month left. That's enough. Lu Ming smiled and took a step forward. His body rushed out and he stood on the roof. Then he ran wildly on the roof. Soon he was 100 miles away. They're here. Lu Ming's gaze was fixed in one direction. Over there, 3 figures were dashing toward Lu Ming at lightning speed. Obviously, they had discovered Lu Ming and were rushing towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood there without moving. In a few breaths, 3 youths, 2 men and 1 woman, surrounded Lu Ming. However, the 3 of them did not act rashly because Lu Ming was too calm. Facing the 3 of them, he was so calm that it made them feel a little guilty. You didn't run when you saw us. It seems like you're very confident. One of the youths said. You're here to give me points. Why should I run? Lu Ming asked in return. Give you points? You're really confident. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Another youth said. Divine force surged and a battle sword condensed. Make your move. I'll give you a chance to make your move. Lu Ming said indifferently. Arrogant, let's kill him together. One of the youths said coldly. In an instant, the 3 youths moved. 3 attacks were launched towards Lu Ming. The power is not weak. It seems that after more than a month of fighting, those who are still alive have some tricks up their sleeves. As soon as the 3 of them attacked, Lu Ming could tell that the 3 youths were not weak. Although the 3 of them only controlled ordinary divine force, their understanding of the incomplete divine skills was quite deep. They had reached the limit of the 1st grade and were not far from the 2nd grade. However, their strength was still far from Lu Ming's. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming clenched his fist and a long spear condensed in the air. He then stabbed it out. 3 spear lights pierced towards the 3 youths. Each spear light had 7 variations, making it impossible to guard against. Buff, buff, buff. When the spear lights disappeared, there was a hole in between the eyebrows of the 3 youths. So strong, this was the last thought of the 3 youths. Then with a bang their bodies turned into energy and dissipated. My points have increased by 236 points. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Originally his points were 88 points. However, after killing the 3 youths, his points suddenly increased to 324 points, which was an increase of 236 points. Sure enough, those who can stay until the end are all experts. Each of them has a lot of points. This is awesome. Lu Ming laughed. In a flash, he went to find the next opponent. Soon, Lu Ming found another young genius hiding in a house. Lu Ming immediately attacked and killed that person. His points had increased to 367, and his ranking had risen to within the top 2,000. Chapter 2636. Thousand Spirit City. Guys look. Lu Ming's ranking has risen and it's rising so fast. His points are soaring and he's already at 367 points. Not only that, he's already in the top 2000. He's showing his strength, he's starting to show his strength. He must have been delayed by something. He rose again more than 400 points and he's now at 1378. Some of the people in the chaotic galaxy suddenly shouted. After all, Lu Ming had entered the top 100 in the past, but his ranking had stagnated after that. However, there were still many people paying attention to Lu Ming in the chaotic galaxy. At this moment, Lu Ming's ranking had suddenly soared, and these people immediately cried out. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan also looked over, and they both let out a cold harumph. Their faces were filled with displeasure. He's only in the top 1000, he's still far from the top 100. That's right, those who remain behind are all experts. Without Fenger's talent, he'll be killed sooner or later, and his ranking will plummet. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan said with displeasure. However, just as Situ Haonan finished speaking, his face changed drastically. Situ Zhao's ranking had suddenly plummeted in a certain area. Initially, Situ Zhao's ranking was already in the top 300, but now his ranking had plummeted to the top 500. There was only one reason for his ranking to plummet, and that was because he was killed and his points were halved. That was why he had fallen so badly. Haha, Situ Haonan, are you talking about your son, Situ Zhao? You're right, I have to say you really have a crow's beak. The ancestor of technique laughed heartily. Fei Ming Yu, Situ Haonan's chest heaved up and down and he almost vomited blood. He had just mocked Lu Ming, and Situ Zhao was killed immediately. His words were too similar to his own. It was as if Situ Zhao was deliberately slapping his face. The leaders of the other factions could not help but laugh at the coincidence. Even Kang Jilian was trying her best not to laugh out loud. Situ Haonan's lips trembled in anger. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master watched coldly. There were close to 1,000 forces in the chaotic galaxy, and it was normal for them to fight and kill each other. She was happy to see the other forces kill each other, and her Cloud Peak Pavilion could stabilize its position as the chaotic galaxy's overlord. It rose again, Lu Ming's ranking, it's fast. Someone shouted. At this moment, Lu Ming's ranking had already risen to more than 900. In the 20th zone, Lu Ming killed a burly snakeman with one shot. His ranking had risen to 978. Now, the number of people has decreased a lot. It seems that many people have been killed twice and have quit. Then, his gaze suddenly turned towards a certain direction. There, a human youth was sprinting madly. It didn't take long for Lu Ming to catch up to him. Wait, brother. We're both humans. Let's talk nicely. Don't kill me. The human youth suddenly turned around and waved his hands. He looked like he was begging for mercy. Don't kill you? Give me a reason. Lu Ming said indifferently. The youth's eyes darted around and then he shouted, I know a lot of information. I can tell you about the location of this area and some of the top experts in the 20th area. You know this? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It would be good if he could know this information. Yes. Our galaxy is good at collecting information. I've collected a lot of information during this period, so I know a lot about the 20th area. The youth said. Tell me. If I find out that you're talking nonsense, I won't show mercy. Lu Ming said coldly. The 20th area is divided into 18 big cities. All the participants are distributed in these 18 big cities to fight against each other. After this period of fighting, some top experts have been born in the 18 cities. Some have high levels of divine power, some have superb comprehension abilities, and some have great mastery of incomplete divine skills. Each and every one of them is an expert that is difficult to deal with. In our city, there are more than 10 top experts in the 4 districts of the north, south, east, and west. The young man immediately started talking about the top experts that he knew about in detail. So, I'm now in the east district of this city. There are 3 top experts in the east district. Interesting. I hope I can meet them. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. Killing these top experts would increase his points quickly. Alright, you can go now. Lu Ming waved his hand. Thank you. The youth was overjoyed. He cupped his fists, turned around, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming didn't kill the youth. The youth's strength was average and he didn't think he would get many points. Even if he killed him, he wouldn't get many points. I don't know where these top experts are. It seems that I can only try my luck. Lu Ming whispered. Then he randomly chose a direction and walked away. Not long after, Lu Ming came to a wide street alone. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, figures flashed and a group of people surrounded Lu Ming. There were more than 20 of them. Haha, it's you. What a coincidence. Now let's see how you're going to die. One of them laughed loudly when he saw Lu Ming. It's indeed a coincidence. There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. It was the Tiger tribe. Furthermore, the person who laughed loudly just now was actually Hu Mao, the person who had threatened to let all the Tiger men torture Lu Ming to death. Kid, it seems that God wants you to meet me. Now kneel down and lick my shoes. I can consider giving you a quick death. Hu Mao stretched out a foot and said coldly. The other Tiger tribe members looked at Lu Ming coldly. It seems that you have a lot of points. Then your points will belong to me. Lu Ming didn't bother to pay attention to Hu Mao and said lightly. What? Hu Mao and others were stunned, thinking that they had heard it wrong. What did Lu Ming say? You wanted to take their points? Was he crazy? A trash from the chaotic Star River actually said that he wanted to take their points. If he wasn't crazy, then what was? It seems that this kid is not only stupid but also blindly arrogant. It's really sad. In that case, let him die miserably and let him know the consequences of offending our Tiger tribe. Hu Mao said eerily. Leave it to me. A young Tiger tribe member directly took action. He waved his big hand and grabbed Lu Ming. In his view, Lu Ming was just a void transformation realm martial artist from a small place like the chaotic Star River. What kind of combat strength could he have? He could be suppressed with a flip of his hand. Chapter 2637. Just as the young Tiger Man's palm was about to hit Lu Ming's finger shot out like a long spear. A ray of spear light burst out. It was extremely bright and fast. The young Tiger Man's body suddenly stiffened in midair because his glabella had been pierced by Lu Ming's spear light. He died on the spot. Bang. Then the young Tiger Man's body exploded with a bang, turning into energy and dissipating. Hu Mao and the others all had astonished looks on their faces. This was completely out of their expectations. A mere void transformation stage martial artist from a place like the chaotic Star River was able to kill a heaven's pride of the Tiger clan with one move. After the shock, they were furious. Boy, how dare you kill a member of the Tiger Man clan? You're courting death. Hu Mao roared. You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said indifferently. He clenched his hand and a long spear condensed in his hand. Swoosh, swoosh. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense and directly attacked. In an instant, several rays of terrifying spear light burst out and killed several Tiger Man clan youths. Attack together, I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Hu Mao roared. Brr, brr. These Tiger Man clan youths roared like tigers. Their divine power condensed into various weapons and attacked Lu Ming. Come on. Lu Ming roared. The long spear vibrated and 7 kinds of changes appeared in an instant. Rays of spear light were shot out and each ray of spear light contained 7 kinds of power. These Tiger Man clan youths could not resist at all. Buff, boom. Some of them were pierced by the spear light and some were swept by the long spear and directly shattered. 20 Tiger Man clan youths were like babies in the hands of Lu Ming. They could not withstand a single blow. Among these people, not all of them possessed ordinary divine power. There were also a few who possessed king-grade divine power. It was a pity that the incomplete divine skill was still weak in Lu Ming's hands. Only the tiger fur was slightly stronger. The divine power he controlled was also of the king grade, and his divine skill was not bad. That was why he was able to block Lu Ming's attack. Bang. Hu Mao used his divine power to condense a battle axe and blocked Lu Ming's spear light. However, his body shook violently and was sent flying. He heavily crashed into the wall of a house and smashed it into pieces. Hu Mao spat out large mouthfuls of blood as he stared at Lu Ming in shock. Dead, they were all dead. Of the 20+ Tiger Man youths, only Hu Mao was left. The rest were all killed by Lu Ming. Brat, you've killed so many of my men. You'll die a horrible death. There are hundreds of my men in this area. I'll definitely avenge you. Hu Mao roared. In this trial there were 2 chances. Even if he was killed he could still revive. He had to tear Lu Ming to shreds. Is that so? Alright, I'll wait for you here. Lu Ming spoke indifferently and then stabbed out with his spear. Although Hu Mao tried his best to resist, he was still nailed to the ground by Lu Ming's spear. More than 20 Tiger Man youths were annihilated. This chance I've risen so quickly. Lu Ming revealed a smile. After killing more than 20 Tiger Man youths, his ranking shot up to 356th place. In an instant his ranking rose by more than 600. Obviously, many Tiger Man youths had joined forces and killed a lot of people in this area, gaining a lot of points. At this time half of the points belonged to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's ranking naturally shot up. So strong, who is this person? In a few tall buildings in the distance, several youths were hiding. They clearly saw the scene of Lu Ming killing the Tiger Man youths. Each of them was dumbfounded. The strength that Lu Ming displayed was too strong. This person's combat strength is probably on par with the top 3 experts in the East District. Yes, and looking at this person's badge, he is from the Chaotic Star River. It's rare to see such an expert in the Chaotic Star River. Several people were discussing in a low voice. They were very shocked. There are quite a number of Tiger Man youths in this area, so I'll just wait for them here and bide my time. Lu Ming smiled. Then, he simply sat cross-legged and started to comprehend the incomplete divine skill carefully. What is that person doing? He's actually staying here, not afraid of the Tiger Man youth's revenge? Didn't you hear? This person just said that he's going to wait here for the Tiger Man youths to take revenge. He's bold, he's really bold. Interesting. Several people in the distant building whispered, showing a curious look. They also stayed nearby and waited, looking forward to a fierce battle. The Tiger Man youths had many experts. In addition to the peerless genius Wuxia, there were other top experts. For example, Hugu, one of the top 3 experts in the East District, was one of them. Lu Ming might collide with Hugu if he stayed here. In the next few days the Tiger Man youths did not appear. However, Lu Ming's cultivation here attracted some other experts. They wanted to kill Lu Ming, but they were all killed by Lu Ming one by one. Lu Ming's ranking rose a little, and he was close to the 200th place. For 9 consecutive days, more than 10 youths were attracted by Lu Ming, and all of them died in Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming's reputation spread out like this. In the East District, people put Lu Ming on the same level as the other 3 top experts. News of the duel between Lu Ming and the Tiger Human clan had also spread and attracted many people to come and watch. Around this area, in some hidden corners of the buildings, young experts were hiding, watching Lu Ming from afar. They were waiting for an opportunity. If Lu Ming really fought with the Tiger Man youths and both sides were injured, they would have a chance. People like Lu Ming must have a lot of points. If they could kill Lu Ming, their points would skyrocket. Many people had this idea and were hiding in the dark. On the 11th day, Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the middle of the street, meditating on the incomplete divine skill with his eyes closed. At this moment he suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, figures were leaping on the houses at an amazing speed. In the blink of an eye they were in front of Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In a flash, more than 30 youths of the Tiger Man youths appeared on the street in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming saw at a glance that one of them was Hu Mao. At this moment Hu Mao was looking at Lu Ming with a face full of hatred. Hugu, it's him, it's this bastard who killed more than 20 of our Tiger Man youths and threatened to wait here. Hu Mao pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. Bang! In front of Hu Mao, a particularly burly youth stepped out. This person was Hugu, one of the top 3 experts in the East District. He was also one of the top 10 geniuses in the Tiger Man youths. You are Lu Ming? How dare you wait here for us? Hugu said coldly. Why not wait for someone to give me points? Lu Ming asked. Chapter 2638. Giving away points? Ah! Tiger Bone laughed out loud. After a few laughs, his smile suddenly disappeared and he stared coldly at Lu Ming. During this period of time, some people have put you on the same level as me and called you the 4th top expert in the East District. I'd like to see what you're capable of. After saying that, Tiger Bone stepped forward. Bam! Bam! With every step he took, the ground rumbled and Tiger Bone's body swelled up, becoming extremely majestic. A halberd formed in his hand with divine power and it was as tall as a person. Kill? Tiger Bone roared and his aura became stronger and stronger. He stepped forward continuously and raised his aura to the maximum. Swoosh! The halberd suddenly struck down at Lu Ming with lightning speed. Buzz! Lu Ming was also very direct and swept out his spear. The spear and halberd met in midair and there was a shocking explosion. Boom! 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 A terrifying power burst out from Tiger Bone's halberd. That kind of power seemed to be able to split mountains and the earth. This was the power of an incomplete divine skill. However, Lu Ming's spear burst out with 7 types of power at the same time. The 7 types of power overlapped and each type was stronger than the last. The power of the 7 types of power surged out and crushed Tiger Bones' halberd in an instant and surged towards his opponent. Tiger Bones' expression changed drastically and his body retreated continuously. He took more than 10 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Your incomplete divine skill has already reached the 3rd level. How is that possible? Tiger Bone roared in shock. Lu Ming did not use all of his sovereign power just now. Instead, he used the incomplete divine skill. He used the 3rd level of the incomplete divine skill to force his opponent back. What? The 3rd level? How is that possible? How can he cultivate the incomplete divine skill to the 3rd level? How long has it been? I've only reached the 1st level not long ago. Me too. Tiger Bones' words shocked the other youths of the Tiger tribe. Although the difficulty of cultivating an incomplete divine skill was not as high as a complete divine skill, it was already very difficult for people of their level. Among the 1 million people, a portion of them had not even reached the 1st level of the martial arts technique. Most of them were only at the 1st level even though they had reached the entry level. For example, Tiger Bone had managed to cultivate his incomplete divine skill to the 2nd level. Coupled with his king-grade divine power, he was able to become one of the top 3 experts in the Eastern District. As for Lu Ming, he had already cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the 3rd level. No wonder. It was no wonder that Lu Ming was so powerful and could unleash such a shocking combat strength with the cultivation of the transformation void martial stage. It turned out that Lu Ming had already cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the 3rd level. The 3rd level of an incomplete divine skill. Terrifying. This person's comprehension ability is truly terrifying. This person's battle prowess is even above Hugu's. The people who were hiding in the dark all had the same thought in their minds. Tiger Bone, this is your strength? He's really nothing much. Lu Ming said with a mocking smile. I don't believe it, Hugu roared and waved his halberd, charging towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his long spear and the spear radiance swept across the battlefield, clashing with Hugu. Lu Ming still had a lot of reservations. He did not unleash the full power of the sovereign power. He only used the incomplete divine skill to fight against his opponent. Even so, Hugu was no match for him. Hugu's incomplete divine skill had just broken through to the 2nd level. Lu Ming had already broken through to the 3rd level for some time. After this period of cultivation he had made some progress. The difference between each level of the incomplete divine skill was like the difference between heaven and earth. If he were to cultivate the complete divine skill in the future, the difference between each level would be even greater. In just a few moves, Hugu was no match for Lu Ming. He was swept by Lu Ming's spear and the 7 levels of strength exploded. Half of his body exploded. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and his aura weakened. How could this be? At this moment, the other members of the Tiger tribe were dumbfounded. A mere transformation void martial stage martial artist was no match for Hugu. How could this be? Especially Hu Mao, who was completely dumbfounded. Go quickly. You're no match for him. Run. At this moment, Hugu roared. Go quickly. The other members of the Tiger tribe came to their senses. Some of them turned around and ran, while others wanted to escape with Hugu. Since you're here, leave behind half of your points before you leave. Lu Ming said coldly. He moved his body and rushed towards Hugu. At this moment, half of Hugu's body had exploded. He could not resist at all and was killed by Lu Ming's spear. Then Lu Ming raised his spear and killed the other members of the Tiger tribe. It was a one-sided situation. The spear radiance swept across the battlefield. One by one the youths of the Tiger tribe were killed. They turned into energy and dissipated. After a while, all the youths of the Tiger tribe were killed by Lu Ming. This. At this moment, the sky prides of the various clans who were hiding in the surrounding buildings were almost scared out of their wits. Their eyes were wide open. It was a complete massacre. It was completely one-sided. At first, many people wanted to wait for Lu Ming and the Tiger tribe to suffer losses so that they could take advantage of the situation. At this moment they were scared. Take advantage of the situation. They would be courting death if they went out. Lu Ming didn't consume much energy. They didn't dare to breathe too loudly. They held their breaths for fear that Lu Ming would discover them. So many points. At this moment the badge in front of his chest kept reminding him. His points had skyrocketed and his ranking had also skyrocketed. Now, his ranking had directly rushed to the 51st place in the 20th zone. Finally, I'm back in the top 100 again. Lu Ming smiled. In the Wanling city, the people of the chaotic galaxy were also shocked. Look, Lu Ming's ranking is soaring. It's so fast. 137,129, 98, 67. Seeing Lu Ming's ranking keep rising, they gasped. In the end, Lu Ming's ranking was fixed at the 51st place. 51st place. That's amazing. I didn't expect Lu Ming to reach the 51st place in the 20th zone. As long as he can maintain this ranking, he will definitely enter the top 100. That's right. I didn't expect the Jingtian army to produce so many geniuses this time. That's amazing. There was a lot of discussion. The leaders of these forces looked at the ancestor of techniques with envy. As for Kang Ji and Situ Haonan, their faces were as ugly as they could be. In the 20th zone. Just as Lu Ming was about to leave, his gaze suddenly shifted to the left. There was a young man in black with a pair of wings behind his back. He was from the Wing tribe. The wings behind his back flapped, and he floated in the air toward Lu Ming. One had to know that it was impossible to fly in here, but this person was floating in the air with his wings. It's Deng Yu, it's Deng Yu. That's right, it's him. This battle actually attracted Deng Yu. The people who were hiding all around sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 2639. The city that they were in was extremely huge. It was like a small world and was divided into 4 districts: north, south, east, and west. Every city district had a few top experts. However, there was one expert in each district who was recognized as the #1 expert. That was Deng Yu. He was the #1 expert in this city, a top genius. At the very least, he was invincible in this city. It was a name that he earned through killing. Now that Deng Yu had appeared, could it be that he was going to fight with Lu Ming? Many people were looking forward to it. Lu Ming's strength was also extremely shocking. One of the top experts in the East District, Hu Gu, was completely crushed by Lu Ming. They wanted to know who was stronger between Lu Ming and Deng Yu. You're very strong. I didn't expect that there would be an expert like you in this city. Deng Yu stopped, landed on a house and looked at Lu Ming. Deng Yu? Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. He had heard the young human mention it before. Now that he saw Deng Yu, he immediately thought of him. That's right. Deng Yu nodded and looked at Lu Ming. His eyes were bursting with a strong battle intent. Initially, I had planned to go to other cities to find experts to challenge, but now it seems that there's no need for that. Deng Yu said. The battle intent in his eyes was getting stronger. You want to fight? That's exactly what I want. Lu Ming also revealed his battle intent. No, you and I will fight, but not now. Deng Yu shook his head. Not now. Lu Ming was puzzled. To be honest, you're very strong. I can't see through you at all. I don't have the confidence to fight you. Maybe I'll die in your hands. I don't have enough points now. If my points are reduced by half, I don't have the confidence to enter the top 100. So, how about we have a battle? When the 3 months are almost up, how about we fight here? Deng Yu said. All right. Lu Ming nodded and agreed without hesitation. He understood Deng Yu's thoughts. If he was killed by Lu Ming now, his points would be halved, and he wouldn't have the confidence to enter the top 100. Therefore, during this period of time he would try to obtain more points. When he had enough points, even if his points were halved, he would still be able to enter the top 100. Very well, let's fight here before the 3 months are up. Finished speaking, Deng Yu turned around and left. Lu Ming wants to fight Deng Yu? When the time comes, you must come and watch. The onlookers thought to themselves. At this moment, Lu Ming had a faint smile on his face as he scanned the surrounding buildings. The people hiding in the buildings immediately tensed up, their heartbeats accelerated and cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. Could it be that he had been discovered? They were shocked. In fact, Lu Ming had discovered them long ago. He controlled the path of domination. Although he could not dominate and mobilize the power of a world like in the Heaven Realm, his senses were greatly enhanced. Although those people hid very well, they were still discovered by Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not make a move. These people's points were not that high. As long as they did not provoke him, he would not bother to make a move. Right now he was only interested in experts. Lu Ming took a step forward, rushed up a building and left this place. At this time there was still a month before the 3 months deadline. Lu Ming began to look for other experts to hunt. However, as long as someone saw him in the East District, they would run away. It was difficult to find an opponent. A few days later, Lu Ming walked out of the East District and went to the other districts. Sure enough, when he arrived at the other districts, There were blind people looking for Lu Ming to hunt down Lu Ming. Of course, the result was that they were all killed by Lu Ming. Just like this, time passed day by day. Lu Ming's points were also slowly increasing. His ranking was also slowly rising. When the 3 months deadline was less than a day away, Lu Ming's ranking rose to 39th in the 20th district. At this time, Lu Ming returned to the place where he and Deng Yu agreed to meet. When Lu Ming returned, he already saw a figure waiting there. Was Deng Yu? You're here. Deng Yu opened his eyes and 2 bright sword lights burst out from his eyes. Since we agreed to meet, of course I'll come. Lu Ming smiled. At the same time, he keenly sensed that there were many people hiding in the surrounding buildings. A month ago, the battle between Lu Ming and Deng Yu had already spread throughout this city. The two of them were recognized as the strongest in this city. Of course, it would attract many people to come and watch. Make your move, Deng Yu said. He was very direct. The divine power in his body boiled, condensing into battle swords around his body. There were a total of 36 swords, and the sword Qi soared into the sky. Fight, Lu Ming said, and a long spear appeared in his hand. Bang. Lu Ming took a step forward, and man and spear became one as he charged toward Deng Yu. Go. Deng Yu waved his hand, and the 36 battle swords formed a strange combination, stabbing toward Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming's long spear and Deng Yu's battle swords clashed repeatedly, and energy overflowed. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. This Deng Yu is not weak, Lu Ming said to himself. As soon as they exchanged blows, he could feel Deng Yu's overall combat strength. The divine power that Deng Yu controlled was also king grade, but it was much stronger than ordinary king grade divine power. Even among divine powers of the same level, there were differences in strength and some were much stronger. For example, Tong Shi'er and Kong Long both controlled king grade divine power, but Tong Shi'er's king grade divine power was stronger than Kong Long's. Deng Yu was the same. His king grade divine power was not weaker than Tong Shi'er's, and it was even stronger. Moreover, his incomplete divine skill had reached the 2nd level, and he had reached the peak of the 2nd level. His combat awareness was also very strong. In terms of overall combat strength, he was much stronger than Hu Gu. It was no wonder that he could become the top expert in this city. Powerful, powerful, again. After dozens of exchanges, the fighting spirit in Deng Yu's eyes grew stronger and stronger. He waved his hands and sword light surged. 36 battle swords rushed toward Lu Ming continuously. Every attack was shockingly powerful and unpredictable, and it was impossible to guard against. It seems that I still need to increase the power of the sovereign. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Previously, when he fought with his opponent, he did not use the full power of the sovereign. What he used was only the power of ordinary divine power. Now he used the power of the sovereign to the power of king-grade divine power. Instantly, his combat strength increased, and his spear light surged, swatting away Deng Yu's sword light. Let's end this, Lu Ming said in a low voice. His long spear shook and it turned into a lightning-like spear light. It was like a flying immortal shattering the void. Whoosh! 7 types of power burst out from the spear light, and Deng Yu's remaining sword light was destroyed. In the next moment, the spear light pierced through Deng Yu's chest. Deng Yu's body stiffened in the air. Powerful, powerful, this battle, I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. Deng Yu smiled. Then, with a bang, his body turned into energy and disappeared. Chapter 2640. Lu Ming vs. Deng Yu. Lu Ming wins. Deng Yu's points are amazing. After killing Deng Yu, Lu Ming's points skyrocketed and his ranking rose again. Originally, Lu Ming's ranking was 39th in the 20th district. After killing Deng Yu, his ranking rose to 17th in the 20th district. After all, there were more than 50,000 people in the 20th district. There were people in the 18 huge cities who were constantly killing each other. It was normal for their points to be higher than his. Terrifying, really terrifying. Even Deng Yu is no match for him. Gosh, this person's combat strength is amazing. I didn't expect the chaotic galaxy to have such a person. I think with his strength he can make it to the top 100. It's possible. Let's see how he fights with the other opponents in the second round. In the surroundings, those who were hiding and watching were shocked to the extreme, unable to calm down. Deng Yu was recognized as the strongest person in the city. However, he was killed by Lu Ming in the end. At this moment, the people of the chaotic galaxy in Wanling City were in an uproar. Lu Ming's ranking rose again. He rose again. He actually made it to 17th in the 20th district. This is amazing. Amazing, amazing. Amazing, this time the Jingtian army is amazing. Many people sighed. The first round of the examination would end in less than a day. This time, the Jingtian army had 5 people who were ranked in the top 100 in their respective districts. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan were ranked 70th to 80th in their respective districts. Are the two of them hiding their strength? The ancestor of technique muttered. He was well aware of Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's talents. They were both existences who could control holy divine power. To be able to control divine power as soon as they broke through to the martial god realm, their comprehension was definitely not low. However, under normal circumstances their ranking should not be so low. There was only one possibility. They were hiding their strength. Seeing that they were about to advance, they did not continue to fight. However, Tong Shi'er and Dandan were ranked higher. Tong Shi'er was ranked 53rd in her region. Dandan ranked 36th. Including Lu Ming and the Righteous Army, a total of 5 people had entered the top 100 of their respective regions. Even the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was envious of such results. Cloud Peak Pavilion only had 3 people who had made it into the top 100 of their respective regions. As for Kang Ji and Situ Haonan, they were about to go crazy from jealousy. How could this be? The heavens are unfair. The two of them roared in their hearts. Previously, someone said that Lu Ming relied on luck and would definitely be killed later. What about now? Fa Ming sneered as he looked at Situ Haonan and Kang Ji. The two of them were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. At the same time they started to panic. So many geniuses had appeared in the Righteous Sky Army, especially Lu Ming, who had reached 17th place in the 20th district. With such talent, if they all joined the Qin 13 sects, how could the Yuan Luo Palace and the Free and Unfettered sect have any good days? Their only consolation was that Situ Feng's ranking wasn't low either. He was ranked 26th in his region. It's still too early to talk about this. Let's see the second round's performance. But who will be able to join the 3 overlords? Situ Haonan gritted his teeth. There was less than a day left before the end of this round's examination. On the last day, the killing in the 20 districts had become even crazier. This was because once one entered the top 100 of their respective region, it was almost certain that they would be able to join the Qin 13 sects. However, once they were eliminated, it would no longer be certain. They wouldn't be able to choose. Moreover, even if they didn't enter the top 100, the higher their points, the higher their chances of being chosen by the Qin 13 sects. Therefore, everyone had gone crazy. Frenzied slaughter, frenzied slaughter. I'm ranked 103rd. As long as I kill him, I'll enter the top 100. In the 3rd district, a young man with a towering head was crazily attacking his opponent. Don't fight back. There's no time. Let me kill you. Let me kill you and I'll be able to enter the top 100. In the 6th district, a young man was crazily chasing after another young man. However, his opponent was crazily fleeing, causing the young man to roar in anger. Almost. He was just a little bit away. However, his opponent wouldn't let him kill him so easily. He couldn't catch up to his opponent and was extremely anxious. Crazy. Everyone's eyes were red as they fought crazily. This was related to their future and fate. It would be strange if they didn't go crazy. In each of the cities in the 20 regions, a crazy massacre was taking place everywhere. However, there were some people that no one dared to provoke. Once they saw them, their expressions would change drastically and they would run away. For example, Jin Sheng, Huye Yangchong, Ling Huyi and the others. They were the kings of their respective districts and were ranked first. In the 20th district, where Lu Ming and Deng Yu were fighting, Lu Ming didn't leave. He sat there cross-legged, comprehending the incomplete divine skill and waiting for the time to come. However, no one dared to provoke Lu Ming. They didn't even dare to get too close to Lu Ming. Although everyone knew that Lu Ming had a shocking amount of points, who would dare to provoke him? Unless they wanted to die. Time passed quickly just like that. When the 3-month period came, his body seemed to be pulled by a force. Then he turned into a beam of light and disappeared. In the next moment, Lu Ming realized that his spiritual will had returned to his body. They were still in a room in the inn. At the same time, Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, Tong Shi'er and Dandan woke up. The jade talisman above their heads glowed. On it, words appeared. Everyone's points and ranking could be clearly seen. With a glance, it was clear at a glance. Shao Qing and Xian Yinjuan. Lu Ming was slightly surprised. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's rankings were a little low. Maybe they're hiding their strength, Lu Ming thought. At this moment, the rankings on the 20 huge screens were completely set. This time, a total of 15 people from the chaotic astral river had entered the top 100 of their respective regions. The Righteous Sky Army was the biggest winner with a total of 5 people. Even the Yunfeng Pavilion only had 3 people. As for Situ Feng, Situ Xiao, Kong Long, and the others, only Situ Feng had entered the top 100. Quick, record down the names of the top 5,000 people in their respective regions. Record the top 10,000 of their respective regions. These are the geniuses of the Qintian star field accumulated over the past 1,000 years. At this moment, many people started recording the rankings on the screens. These people came from some of the smaller factions in the Qintian star field. In the Qintian star field, other than the Qintian 13 sects, there were many smaller factions. Although their strength was far inferior to the Qintian 13 sects, they were still much stronger than factions like the Yunfeng Pavilion. These factions knew that the people at the top of the rankings would definitely not join them. Therefore, they had their eyes on the people at the bottom of the rankings. The Qintian 13 sects didn't care about these people, but they did. Chapter 2641. It was just like Taobao. Those who were ranked at the bottom might have some gold. In history there had been such a situation. Some people had an average performance during the assessment and were not selected by the Qintian 13 sects. Instead they joined a small force. However, there were some who soared to the sky and became heavenly gods, divine kings, and even the top experts in the Qintian star zone. Once they found such gold, that small force would make a fortune. Many geniuses who were not selected by the Qintian 13 sects would join these small forces. These small powers were only considered small compared to the Qin heavenly 13 sects. But when compared to the major powers in the chaotic astral river, these small powers were undoubtedly gigantic. Some factions had god kings holding down the fort. After a while, the 20 screens in the sky finally disappeared. What replaced them was a line of words. At this moment, a message appeared in Lu Ming and the rest jade talismans. It introduced the information and rules of the second round of assessment. Everyone read it carefully. The rules of the second round of assessment were to be carried out in the dreamland space. Like the first round, everyone's cultivation was suppressed to level 1 empty god realm. In the dreamland space, they could only use the incomplete divine skills that they had comprehended. Moreover, the second round was a one-on-one battle. There were 20 areas and the top 100 in each area. There were a total of 2,000 people who would fight in pairs. However, they had to rest for a month. After a month, they would enter the stone steel forest where they had comprehended the incomplete divine skills and comprehend them again. This time they would have 2 years. After 2 years, the second round would begin. It was obvious that this was to allow those who were talented and had high comprehension abilities to widen the gap. What the Qin Heavenly 13 sects valued was their comprehension ability and talent. During the battle, the Qintian 13 sects would send experts to observe their battles. If they were satisfied, they would even take the initiative to invite them. What was different from the first round was that during the 2 years when they were comprehending the incomplete divine skills, they could exit or enter at any time. There's still a month to rest. Shall we go out for a walk? Lu Ming smiled. Everyone agreed. Everyone walked out of the inn and strolled on the streets. At the same time, this was the Myriad Spirit Star, the largest commercial planet in the Qin Heavenly Star field. Lu Ming had a few other objectives. Back then, he had obtained some divine pills in the God's Cave abode on Northern Merchant Planet. He wanted to find some books that introduced divine pills and identify them. In addition, he had quite a few divine weapons in his possession. He planned to sell some of them and buy a batch of divine weapon fragments for Qiuqiu to eat. As Qiuqiu's level increased, his requirements for divine artifact fragments also increased. Low-grade divine artifact fragments were becoming less and less useful to it. He needed to purchase some high-grade divine artifact fragments. In addition, Lu Ming wanted to see if he could find any secret techniques that could conceal his sovereign power so that others would not easily recognize him. You guys go ahead. I still have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. After strolling around for a while, Xian Yinjuan spoke up. With that, he drifted away, heading down another street. Lu Ming and the others didn't think too much about it. Xian Yinjuan had always been mysterious. They continued to stroll around. Soon they arrived at a bustling area. There were shops everywhere in this area. This was the largest commercial star in the Qintian starfield. There were caravans from all over the Qintian starfield. Everyone was dazzled. Some of the treasures made them green with envy, but the prices were shockingly high. Even some true gods and heavenly gods couldn't afford them. After a while they came to a divine weapon shop. Lu Ming sold a few low-grade Tier 7 and Tier 8 divine weapons, then exchanged them for divine weapon fragments of the same level. Then they walked to some shops that sold divine skills and secret techniques. So many divine skills and secret techniques. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Tong Xier's eyes were shining. On the other hand, Xian Yanqing and Dandan were relatively calm. At a glance they saw at least a few hundred divine skills. There were offensive ones, speed ones and defensive ones. However, the prices were so high that they made them gasp. There were even secret techniques. Secret techniques were different from divine skills. Secret techniques were usually rarer and were used to assist. Some could assist in attack, speed, alchemy, crafting and so on. Lu Ming looked at them one by one. Of course there were no real books here. They were all introductions. Only when one wanted to buy something would the shop take out the real book. What a magical secret technique! Lu Ming discovered that some secret skills could increase one's combat ability within a short period of time, such as the battle formula. However, unlike the battle formula did not have any aftereffects. These secret skills usually had aftereffects. Some could increase one's speed, and some required special cultivation methods to increase one's combat power. However, the price was often shockingly high. With Lu Ming's current net worth, he couldn't afford it. Spirit Transformation Technique. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a secret technique and his eyes lit up. Spirit Transformation Technique could change the aura, color, and level of divine power. The introduction was very simple, but it was suitable for Lu Ming. However, the price was 100,000 divine crystals, which made Lu Ming frown. 100,000 divine crystals was very low compared to other secret techniques, but it wasn't a small sum. Sir, do you need this secret technique? A shop assistant asked Lu Ming. Can the price of this spirit transformation technique be cheaper? Lu Ming asked. Cheaper? I can't make the decision. I need to ask the shopkeeper. Wait a moment, I'll go ask the shopkeeper. The shop assistant said politely and then left in a hurry. Soon, Dianyu came back with a middle-aged man. Sir, if you need this spirit transformation technique, I'll sell it to you for 80,000 divine crystals. Take it as making friends. The shopkeeper said with a smile. 80,000 divine crystals is too expensive. I'll buy it for 50,000 divine crystals. Lu Ming said. 50,000? Sir, I'm afraid that won't do. It's too cheap. The shopkeeper shook his head. Shopkeeper, I'm sure you know that this spirit transforming technique isn't very useful. It's useless for most people. No matter how long you stay here, I'm afraid no one will buy it. 50,000 divine crystals is more than enough. Lu Ming casually shook his head as if he didn't care. Indeed, this spirit transformation technique was completely different from the divine breathing technique that Lu Ming had obtained in the past. The divine breathing technique could change one's aura as if they were a different person. However, Lu Ming's cultivation was too high, so the divine breathing technique was useless. On the other hand, the spirit transformation technique could only change the aura, level, color, and so on. However, why would an ordinary person change the level of their divine power? Chapter 2642. The transformation art could only disguise high-level divine power as low-level divine power. It could not disguise low-level divine power as high-level divine power. Why would a person with king-grade divine power disguise their divine power as ordinary divine power? Most people wished that their divine power was of a higher level. Only a small number of people with saint-grade or divine-grade divine power would disguise their divine power as low-level divine power in order to not attract attention. However, such people were far too few and far between. Therefore, as Lu Ming had said, a secret skill like the transformation skill was of little value. Not many people would buy it. The shopkeeper's expression changed. He knew that Lu Ming had a point. 50,000 divine crystals. I don't want any more than that. I'm just curious. Lu Ming shook his head and was about to turn around and leave. Wait a minute, sir. 50,000 it is. I'll sell it to you. The shopkeeper quickly stopped Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and took out 50,000 divine crystals. He handed it to the shopkeeper. Then the shopkeeper went into the depths of the shop. When he returned, he took out a jade token and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. It was the transformation art. It's done. Lu Ming was delighted. After putting it away, they walked out of the shop. Next, they walked around for a while. Xian Yinxing, Tong Xier, and Dandan bought some things they needed. As for Lu Ming, he bought a few books that introduced some divine elixirs and returned to the inn. After returning to the inn, Lu Ming took out the books on divine pills and read them carefully. Xian Yinjuan walked around alone. Soon she came to a tall building. Those who were experienced would know that this was a famous place to gather information on the myriad spirits star. This was opened by a terrifying force. This force's strength spread across half of the primitive universe. A lot of information could be bought here. Xian Yinjuan walked in and was immediately greeted. "Miss, how can I help you?" A middle-aged woman asked. "I want information," Xian Yinjuan said. "Excuse me, is this news from the Qintian starfield or from another starfield?" The young woman asked. "Other star fields." Xian Yinjuan. "Those from other star fields, please follow me." The young woman led Xian Yinjuan into a room. Half an hour later, Xian Yinxing left the building with a frown. On the myriad spirit star, a storm was brewing. Some of the smaller forces had already started to meet with some of the lower-ranked geniuses, hoping to rope them in. In an inn. Damn it. Those trash from the righteous army actually managed to enter the top 100. Damn it. Kong Long roared, his eyes filled with jealousy. At the side, Sidu Xiao was about the same. This time, the righteous sky army actually had 5 people enter the top 100 of their respective regions. This greatly exceeded their expectations. As for Kong Long and Situ Xiao, they didn't enter the top 100 of their respective regions. Now, if they wanted to join the Qintian 13 sects, they would have to rely on luck. "Don't worry, as long as I join a sect, I will definitely recommend you guys," Sidu Feng said faintly. "Thank you, big brother." Sidu Xiao was beaming with joy. "Thank you, brother Situ." Kong Long also thanked him repeatedly. This time it was fortunate that Situ Feng was here. Not only did he enter the top 100 of his region, but his ranking wasn't low either. Entering the Qintian 13 sects was something that was set in stone. "Feng, you have to perform well in the second round. Only by performing well will you be valued by the Qintian 13 sects. After joining, your treatment will also be better," Sidu Haonan warned. "I know." Situ Feng nodded, his eyes revealing a strong battle intent. This time he wanted to amaze everyone and walk out of the chaotic astral river. The Qintian starfield and even the primitive universe were his stage. North of the myriad spirit city on a mountain. This was the gathering place of the Tiger Men. At this moment, a roar could be heard from the mountain. "Hu Mao, and you Hu Gu with your talent, why didn't you enter the top 100 of the 20th region? What's going on?" Hu Ye's eyes were like lightning as he glanced at Hu Mao, Hu Gu and the others. Hu Mao and Hu Gu were usually arrogant, but in front of Hu Ye, they were like mice that saw a cat. When Hu Ye glanced at them, they shuddered. "It's all because of that brat, that bastard from the chaotic astral river?" Hu Mao gritted his teeth and told Hu Ye about Lu Ming. "Chaotic astral river? I didn't expect that there would be such a genius in the chaotic astral river. However, no matter who he is, he must be punished for killing the Tiger Men. Don't worry, don't let me meet him in the second round. Otherwise, I will make sure he dies miserably," Hu Ye said coldly. If it wasn't for the rule that he couldn't attack other participants during the assessment, he would have used his power to find Lu Ming and kill Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these few days, Lu Ming had finished reading a few books that introduced divine pills. He also roughly compared the divine pills that he got from the Heavenly God's cave. The divine pills in the cave weren't of high grade, otherwise the Heavenly God wouldn't have left them there. There were healing pills, detoxifying pills, and pills that could enhance cultivation. Among them, there were 2 types of pills that interested Lu Ming the most. One was the spirit congealing pill. The other was the spirit strengthening pill. The spirit congealing pill could speed up the fusion of 10,000 yuan, allowing the void transformation realm to enter the demigod realm faster. This was exactly what Lu Ming needed now. The other type was the spirit strengthening pill. This divine pill was extremely helpful for the void god realm. After the void god realm took it, it could increase their divine power and increase their cultivation speed. Among them, there were 2 bottles of spirit congealing pills with a total of 18 pills. There were 6 bottles of spirit strengthening pills with a total of 54 pills. Lu Ming gave Xian Yinxing, Xian Yinjuan, Tong Xier, and Dandan a bottle of spirit strengthening pill each. This way it could speed up their cultivation speed. He kept 2 bottles for himself. Crunch, crunch. At the side, Qiuqiu was hugging a mysterious fragment and munching on it happily. Lu Ming smiled and took out a few more divine weapon fragments and threw them to Qiuqiu. As for himself, he took out a spirit congealing pill and swallowed it, beginning his cultivation. A month's time passed in the blink of an eye. On this day the jade token shone again and brought them into the dream space. It was still the same stone-steel forest as last time. There were various different incomplete divine skills on it. This time they had 2 years to comprehend it. Brr, brr. On the other side of the stone-steel forest, there were roars of beasts. This time it was a little different from last time. This time, in the dream space, there were some training grounds that were filled with countless desolate beasts. Everyone could enter and train. This way it would be extremely helpful for comprehending and cultivating the incomplete divine skills. Chapter 2643. The crowd did not move immediately, but instead, they looked at each other. There were 2,000 people in total, and 2 years later they might all be competitors. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt a few powerful auras pressing toward him. He turned around and saw a few figures walking towards Lu Ming. Tiger tribe. Lu Ming could tell at one glance that these few people were from the Tiger clan. The leader was a young man who was extremely tall and muscular. He was even taller than Hu Gu previously. There was a domineering aura around him. You are Lu Ming? The few youths from the Tiger tribe stopped in front of Lu Ming, and the young man who was the leader asked coldly. That's right. Lu Ming replied. Very good, you killed many experts from my tribe in the 20th district. You better not meet me in the second round, or else I will make sure you die miserably. The young man from the Tiger tribe said maliciously, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. This kid from the chaotic galaxy offended the Tiger tribe, he's finished. Being targeted by Wuxia, I'm afraid he won't make it through the second round. Some people whispered at the side. Wuxia, you're getting more and more useless, to target someone from the chaotic galaxy. Your opponent is me. At this time a rough voice sounded, and a young man who was even more muscular than Wuxia stepped out. A powerful aura came towards Wuxia. Jinsheng is Jinsheng. Someone recognized this young man. He was someone who was as famous as Wuxia, and also a peerless genius who controlled Saint-grade divine force. Jinsheng, you and I will have a battle, and this time the first place will belong to me. Wuxia sneered. What a joke, you want to get the first place. The first place belongs to me. Jinsheng confronted each other and their auras collided. Their bodies were filled with divine force, and a terrifying light flowed out. The two of you are really narcissistic, wanting to get the first place. Do you think you're worthy? At this time a young man stepped out, forming a triangle with Jinsheng and Wuxia. Yangchong. Another existence that controlled Saint-grade divine force. Jinsheng and Wuxia both had serious looks in their eyes. The test this time is about talent and comprehension as well as combat experience. You won't get first place just because you have a high level of divine power. A cold voice sounded. A young man from the Naga tribe stepped out and joined the confrontation. That's right. Even if one's divine power level is high, it doesn't necessarily mean that one's future achievements will be high. As long as one has divine techniques, there will be plenty of people who will surpass one's predecessors. Another young man stepped forward. Bang, bang. Following that, powerful auras erupted as more and more young geniuses joined in the confrontation. There were more than a dozen of them. Amazing. They are all ranked first in their respective regions. Someone exclaimed. These youths who had joined the confrontation were all ranked first in their respective regions in the first round. Each of them was full of confidence, arrogance, and conceit. They were not weaker than others. Not only these people, but those who were ranked second and third in their respective regions were also filled with confidence. In the first round, it didn't mean that one was stronger just because they had the highest points. Sometimes luck was also needed. Some people had low points, but that didn't mean that they weren't strong. These people were also filled with fighting spirit. They wanted to compete with Jinsheng, Wuxia, and the others. Lu Ming smiled casually and took a few steps back. He couldn't be bothered to compete with these people. It was useless to say anything now. They would know when they fought in 2 years. Then let's fight in 2 years, Wuxia said coldly. He then glanced coldly at Lu Ming. His body moved and he led the Naga tribe's prodigies into the stone-steel forest. Jinsheng and the others also rushed into the stone-steel forest and disappeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Following that, the others rushed into the stone-steel forest in a flash. This time there were only 2,000 people. They looked scattered and scattered. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the stone-steel forest. However, different people had different choices. Some people rushed into the stone-steel forest to find a new incomplete divine skill to cultivate. For example, most people would choose an incomplete speed-type divine skill or an incomplete defense-type divine skill. Combined with an incomplete offensive divine skill, the power would definitely be stronger. However, in this way, comprehending several incomplete divine skills at the same time was bound to consume a lot of energy. Some people directly passed through the stone-steel forest and rushed into the other side of the stone-steel forest. They entered the training ground to find desolate beasts to kill and focus on cultivating an incomplete divine skill. As long as an incomplete divine skill was cultivated to an extremely high level, its power would be equally shocking. Everyone had their own choices. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing separated. Lu Ming wandered around the stone-steel forest. Lu Ming also planned to choose another incomplete divine skill to cultivate. His comprehension was high enough. Choosing another divine skill was the way to go. Not long after, Lu Ming chose an incomplete speed divine skill. This incomplete divine skill actually had a name. Rock Wings Technique. It evolved from comprehending the flight of the rock. Once used, it was like a rock spreading its wings. His speed was astonishing. Similarly, this incomplete divine skill was divided into 7 levels. Lu Ming carefully comprehended it. After more than a month, Lu Ming finally gained entry. After gaining entry, Lu Ming did not continue cultivating here. He passed through the stone-steel forest and came to the other side. He wanted to enter the training ground to find desolate beasts to kill. This way, his cultivation speed would be the fastest. On the other side of the stone-steel forest there were huge caves. There were a total of 72 caves that led to different training grounds. These whole emptiness realms were not here the last time they entered. They only appeared this time. Lu Ming casually walked into a cave. After passing through the cave, a boundless plain appeared in front of him. Roar, roar. On the plain, the roars were like thunder. They could see huge desolate beasts roaming around. Some desolate beasts were already fighting with some youths. Rock Wings Technique. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He circulated the Rock Wings Technique with the power of a ruler. A pair of invisible wings seemed to appear behind his back, increasing his speed greatly as he rushed towards the plain. Roar. Soon, a desolate beast that looked like a lion about 10 meters tall, pounced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not retaliate. He executed the Rock Wings Technique and dodged the desolate beast's attack. He went around the desolate beast and went deep into the plain. On the way, desolate beasts constantly attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming used the Rock Wings Technique to dodge them. This way he could train his Rock Wings Technique. As he went deeper, Lu Ming did not know how far he had gone. At this point he could no longer see any other young elites. At this point Lu Ming finally stopped. Roar, roar. In an instant, a few desolate beasts pounced towards Lu Ming. These desolate beasts were not very strong. Some of them were equivalent to level 1 Empty God Realm. Some were level 2 and level 3 Empty God Realm. There were fewer of them. Of course, there were level 4 Empty God Realm beasts or beasts above level 4 Empty God Realm. Of course there were even fewer of them. Lu Ming condensed a long spear in his palm. At the same time he executed the Rock Wings Technique and charged towards the few desolate beasts. The spear radiance flashed and the roars were like thunder. The tough training had begun. With the desolate beasts as training, the speed of improvement of the incomplete divine skill would be much faster. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.